And I do believe that I am now live. I think. Hopefully someone can tell me if they can actually hear me, because frankly, everything has changed since the last time I streamed. How is my microphone doing? Yes, it is. It's doing fine. I think we're good. Actually, that's a very easy way to test that if I'm live, because I can just open my own stream, can't I? That's a rather easy way to do it. That's a very easy way to test that if I am. Yep, I am actually speaking. That's excellent. Lovely, lovely, lovely. It's been rather a long time since I've done this, and I really wish that I was streaming again for better reasons than this, because it's quite frankly a very miserable topic, and I am still not entirely certain why I decided to just come back to this. But I suppose something in the end had to knock me out of my general disinterest towards the concept of streaming in general. Well, actually, that's not quite true. It's not so much that I've not wanted to stream, it's more the fact that I haven't really had much of a ability to get back into a flow of streaming. See, the thing about me and streaming is that I tend to want a continuity of streams, and I kind of fell into this little issue where I just kind of stopped enjoying streaming with regards to VTuber stuff, because I started realizing just how fake and gay a whole ton of it was. Hello, Vale the Enduring, or possibly Vale the Enduring. A long time no see. I do agree. Thank you very much. I do appreciate the support. I do appreciate that some people are bothering to show up to see me. I found that one of my major issues with VTubing streaming recently is that it got very kind of, as I say, it got very fake and gay. Like, there's people like Armchair Expert out there who is doing, I mean, he's not outputting the same level of content that he used to, but every now and again he comes out with an absolute banger stream. Hello, Merrick as well, Merrick1214. And apart from that, there's only people like Rima and a few like one view nobodies and like absolute drama skags that nobody gives a shit about streaming, about VTuber news and stuff like that. And yeah, I just did not like the scene any longer. I went through this whole period of being like, oh great, you could establish like a whole new medium of VTuber news coverage. Not myself, of course. I've never ever had any real aspirations to being a major streamer or anything like that. But I did think back in like the early 2024 to 2025, when massive events like the Selen drama were going down, that there was a real chance for independent VTubers to be a good source of analysis on the space and able to give impartial overviews of what is actually going on within the VTuber industry. But it's become very, very obviously like compromised and corporate. There are big names out there who very much obviously have agendas and that are very much kind of part of the industry. And then you had people like False ID graduating, and I really, like, I've always despised False ID. He was very obviously an industry plant of some sort. Like, he was 100% in bed with, like, at least half a dozen different companies, and I've had it told to me on many occasions that he like has connections with various corporations who basically told him in advance what to say on certain topics. I don't know if he got compensation for that. I don't know how deep that goes. That's just a very strong rumor that has been going around since forever, and I very much believe it if you even glance at his output. So yeah, I kind of just got really sick and tired of that, because it's like, I don't necessarily, here's the thing, I don't actually hate the vast majority of people that cover VTuber events. I don't have any real problem with them. I think they are slipping into a niche, and let's face it, this industry runs on cronyism. There is no way that you're going to be a voice of criticism in the industry without having a substantial number of doors just slammed in your face. Whereas if you show even like the tiniest bit of deference, if you listen to the odd DM from some middle manager going, hey, could you maybe wait a week to cover us? Or, maybe you couldn't cover this and, we'll slip you into our industry mixer. Because I mean, industry mixers are like, you can get in there if you're a one view, basically, if you know the right people. That's another thing. Once I started going to VTuber conventions on a semi-regular basis and hearing from people that also go to VTuber conventions, I really got kind of sick and tired of how this industry seems to be very much run by a mixture of high-level people who know absolutely everything and, like, literal one views who just go to every convention and hang out with all the big people and are, like, close personal friends with them. If someone ever like does a full-scale expose with hidden microphone and anything in one of these events, I think the average person would be totally shocked at how much influence and power people who objectively are not good streamers, who have no audience, who seemingly have no sway in any capacity, just how much power those people actually have by virtue of the fact that because there are really no standards in this industry, you can get away with a whole ton of stuff just by being in the right place at the right time. I mean, hell, I know one views who've had long, lengthy conversations about industry matters with people like Zentrea. So, again, I'm not trying to say that as a way to come across as, oh, Proctor Zakharov, he knows so many people. No, what I know is literally just a case of being in the right places at the right times and listening with an attentive ear. And none of this is hidden knowledge. It's just not talked about. And there's a great difference between hidden knowledge and not talked about. There's an etiquette involved in it. And I really don't want to be part of that kind of etiquette. I don't want to talk to people, and I don't want to feel like I'm holding things back simply because if I said things, then, again, doors would close in my face. I don't like that. I would much rather have a clean conscience when talking to people and be like, yeah, like, I'll listen to you. I'm not going to say something that will destroy your career just for my own benefit, because that would be an asshole move of me. But I'm also not going to be like, oh yeah, that's lovely, that's wonderful, that's amazing, you're an amazing person, you did absolutely nothing wrong, also when can we collab, and can I buy into the stocks of your new company? Like, that's... Yeah. Again, it's a very corrupt scene, and it depresses me. You have the right of it. Thank you, Vale. Give me one moment, I'm going to have a nice big sip of my enormous cup of tea. Before we get on to this very depressing and miserable subject, I will give a bit of an update as to why I've been gone for so long and a few of the things that I've been doing. Hopefully the microphone picks up the very British noise of me sipping tea. Azahara, people love to overshare when they can't do it openly on stream. Oh yes, they do. I mean, why do you think that people talk to even fucking Nito? I can't even say his name. But yeah, the last year or so has been very interesting because my family finally purchased our house after a very long and lengthy legal battle. That is all settled now. We are the proud owners of this glorious property, aka the utterly ancient farmhouse that has stood here since time immemorial. Mostly stood here because of our constant efforts to maintain it and make sure that it does not fall down around our ears, which it has attempted to do on a few occasions. In fact, just an hour or so ago before the sun went down, I was out scrubbing down the roof because it needs to be repainted. It is quite a large roof. The paint is very strong. You have to use a steel brush. I have not needed to weightlift in quite some time because of this particular form of exercise that I'm doing. So, yeah, I also managed to damage my back because we also have an enormous garden, and that enormous garden has a lot of enormous plants in it. And during the drought, many of those plants needed to be watered on a very regular basis. Do you know what lifting like 150 watering cans worth of water to a bunch of plants, especially when they're stuck in a polytunnel where you need to bend over at an almost 90-degree angle to reach some of them, does to your back? It doesn't do good things. Definitely not. In fact, I am sitting rather precariously in my chair at the moment because my back has still not healed after about 4 days after pulling it rather dramatically out of position. I also had a driving lesson this morning, and guess what we were doing this driving lesson? We were doing left-hand reverse. Guess what left-hand reverse requires you to do? Oh yes, it requires you to squirm right round in your chair and twist your spine around and stare over your right and left shoulder alternatively. Was that fun with a damaged back? No, it was not. I had to apologize several times for my intermittent screams of agony to the instructor. Although he is from London, so I think he might be a sadist, so he probably enjoyed it, the bastard. Actually, I've actually got a very good driving instructor. He's a lovely guy. I really appreciate his efforts to overcome my inherent autism that prevents me from telling left to right. It's so weird. I remember when Kirsha was first streaming. Well, I say first streaming. When I was first watching her, I remember her and her moderators and the people she used to play like MMOs with. They would sometimes be on call together and they would talk about how absolutely impossible it was to get her to understand the concept of left and right. I vaguely recall that she needed to have like physical markers on her controller or her keyboard or possibly her monitor that were different colors or otherwise distinguished so that she could just instinctively tell left from right by like those markers instead of like mentally getting it. And until I started driving, I was like, there's no way this is real. Like, I can tell left from right perfectly fine. There is no problems here. This is absolutely a woman moment. This is autistic exceptionalism to begin with. I really don't want to admit how often I've mixed up left and right while on my driving lessons, okay? That is, yes, something that has happened a disturbing number of times. Now, the thing is, instinctively, I understand, but if someone just says turn left or turn right, I always need that second or so in my brain to go like, what's left and what's right again? Like, I need an external point of reference for me to get that on, like, from the level of the thought enters my head to the actions go to my hands. And if I'm not thinking about it, I can do it. If I'm being told to do it, then my brain just goes and just kind of picks a random direction. It's one of those things where I feel that when I get to driving on my own, I'll be perfectly fine. But so long as someone is acting in my brain, that creates a problem. Ugh, dear. Very, very frustrating. As for other things that I've been doing recently, I went to Dokumi in, it was May to June. And that was a very, very fun experience. I could have picked between going... Holy shit, that scared the hell out of me. Good God. Oh my God. And you probably... Oh dear. You probably heard that on reverb too, because... So, slight tangent. Thank you also for joining. Someone who just joined. I'm afraid I don't have my stream elements thing open, so I was that actually sent chills down my spine. That genuinely terrified the hell out of me for a second. I thought it was one of my birds screaming, or possibly a human screaming. God. That's one of the fun parts of coming back to streaming after being away for a very long time. You completely forget what your own alerts sound like and are just suddenly jump scared by them. But yeah, if that sounded very weird on the live recording, That is because I am currently using very crappy desktop speakers because my headphone cable broke a few weeks ago and I have not quite been bothered to replace it yet. It still kind of works, but it has that problem where it just kind of cuts out intermittently every so often, which is not fun at all. So apart from putting it on to and holding it at a specific angle to listen to music every so often, I'm not using my headphones at the moment. So yeah, if there is noise from my speakers, it might reverb over my microphone, which is why I would be muting my desktop audio or my microphone. But yeah, I didn't do that, and oh my god, that was terrifying. Let me have another drink of my tea. Oh, anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I was talking about Dokumi. Yeah, Dokumi 2026 was very fun. It was nightmarishly hot all 3 days. I met several VTubers at Dokumi. I met Ravy. She is a very fun, like, German water dragon VTuber, I think. Like, I met her in the flesh, as in she was manning a stall there, and she was extremely nice. I had a very nice conversation with her. She was very sweet. I got several pieces of signed merchandise from her, and hopefully she'll be at Vexpo in a couple of weeks too, and I might be making something a little cute for her as well, which I'm currently working on, but no spoilers for that right now. I'll say it is genuinely extremely pleasant that there are VTubers out there that are willing to tolerate my presence in real life and respect what I do, which is very kind of them. I've found this weird thing where a lot of VTubers are like, oh, Proctor Zakharov, he's the guy that mentioned me once in a forum post like 3 years ago, and he said something nasty about me. He must hate me forever and now stalk my Twitter and my YouTube streams, like watching for things that he can say more nasty things about. And I'm like, okay, for one, I genuinely have no idea who you are, and I have zero recollection of ever talking about you before in my entire life. And then I go and search for their name on TVA, and yeah, it's like some obscure post where I said, oh, they sounded bad in a collab that I happened to tune into for less than 5 minutes 2 years ago. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, look, I'm an honest and I'm a fairly brusque person. If I don't like something, I will say it, and I will say it publicly. You have to post the stream link, bro. Finding the stream was quite a quest. Where did you come from? And to I'm just gonna call you Zavok. Where did you come from? Because I have the stream was pinged in my Discord and also is linked in a floating message on TVA at the moment. If you came here from somewhere else, I don't know. From Twitter. Oh, I apologize. I should have posted. The trouble is, I've also seen that apparently posting streaming links on Twitter rather, it is very, very bad for your stream for your stream health. Okay, let me collect my thoughts for 1 second, please. Right. So I have heard from fairly reputable sources, although keep in mind that it's Twitter, so this may literally be people reading in the entrails of a sacrificed goat. Yeah, posting links kills the post. I also heard that it can also damage your overall reach if you do it regularly, because what Twitter will do, it will look at you posting like links every couple of days and will be like, we're going to kill the reach of your tweets in general from now on because we do not like the fact that you are posting links. Like, you post too many links, therefore algorithm number go down. Now, admittedly, like, this is the first link that I've posted in like over a year at this point, nearly. But I just didn't want to do it because I don't like that. I've actually got pretty decent engagement on Twitter. I have noticed that Twitter engagement has been very strange. There have been some posts that I have made that have gotten massive engagement and that I have absolutely not intended to have massive engagement. I have no idea why they were boosted. Stuff about the CIA torturing people with Yoko Ono music, that went like it didn't go viral, but in comparison to my regular views, that got like 20 times the normal number of views on a post that I made, and it was like it was over the tweet limit as well, which normally debuffs you in the algorithm too. So I have no idea why the hell that Twitter just randomly decided that 20 times my normal follower number needed to hear about the CIA torturing prisoners in Guantanamo Bay by playing Yoko Ono songs at them. Such is the mystery of Twitter. Hello, Zerstore5094. Nice to see you as well. Now, let me get on with this. Oh yeah, Dokumi, Twitter, VTubers. Yeah, as I was saying, like VTubers, if I say something bad about a VTuber, I generally don't mean it as some kind of massive diss against them. Like, there are VTubers out there that I have genuinely said quite nasty things about. I have been quite vitriolic about them on TVA that I've later either met in real life or I've, met on Twitter or some other place. And we've actually hit it off pretty well, and we've been cool. Like, I very strongly believe in the separation of the professional and the private. There are people out there whose views I genuinely don't agree with. I think that they believe in things that I don't like, and they support causes that I would never support myself, but I know them reasonably enough that I know they're not card-carrying members of the Communist Party or insane villains that want to go around hacking little boys' genitals off just because they played with dolls once in their life. Azihara, women love when you treat them like crap. God, that's going to be quoted, isn't it? Hello, Creamsicle VT. Nice to see you as well. Glad you could tune in. Women... Okay, I'll put it like this. It has been said to me by a decent number of women at this point that they do indeed enjoy it when a man is less than delicate with them. I am picking my words very carefully when I say this, in certain contexts. However, I do not think that applies necessarily to the verbal world of the internet, well, more like textual world of the internet. Women tend to have very long and disturbingly accurate memories when it comes to things that have slighted them. And, yeah, if you say something nasty about a woman online, she is going to remember that for a very long time, and she is probably going to expect you to apologize for it at some point, unless she happens to be very autistic and fairly masculine in her attitudes. Because as I'm quite convinced, autism is basically hypermasculinity disorder, and there is a very good reason why an awful lot of autistic women are either tomboys or tend to, if they're more left-leaning, well, start calling themselves by male pronouns. But anyway, yeah, getting back to the recap, the trouble is my autism is now hyper-focused on trying to explain where I've been and everything, and I'm probably also trying to delay the point where I get to the whole woman who murdered 3 of her children in a unspeakably grotesque manner and got over $1 million for it. Well, I think it's, the last count is about $800,000 to $900,000. Zerstory, it's the reason why they love bestiality in fiction novels. They want to be dominated. Well, yeah, but the thing is about a woman when she wants to be dominated, again, this is not like some MAGA or, what is it, MGTOW or whatever, or incel, like, fantasy that I'm cooking up in my head. This has legitimately been told to me by multiple women. I am kind of emphasizing that. A woman does not want to be forced, but in general, they do very much enjoy the fantasy of, oh, he could force me, but he's, like, sexy enough that I'm not going to resist. Like, I am in this man's power, but he is nice enough to me that I am not going to resist. Like, that's the kind of woman mindset when it comes to these kinds of things. It's so funny to me, the goal is 2 million. Yeah, that is deeply, deeply, deeply upsetting. But we'll get onto that, okay? We will get onto that, I swear. Yeah, there's one more thing I wanted to discuss briefly. I went to Abunai in the Netherlands. Was it last week or the week before? I think it was the week before last. Banger stream topic for the first stream in a while. Yes, hello, R3D Goliath. Yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. I'm just kind of updating people on what I've been doing, first of all. And, yeah, my PNG, the current PNG that I'm using, was very much inspired by my reaction to the whole Lindsay Clancy thing. Also, if I call her Lindsay Graham, for some reason it has been impossible for me to get the association between Lindsay Graham and Lindsay Clancy out of my head. That has been stuck in my head like an autistic mindworm. So multiple times when I've intended to say Lindsay Clancy, I've ended up saying Lindsay Graham, so I do apologize in advance. You know, the only one for some reason. But yeah, I went to Abonai and I was able to stay over in the Netherlands with another friend that I have there. And that was a spectacular time. If you are in Europe and you want a really good party convention to go to, Abonai in the Netherlands is a fantastic, fantastic choice. Lindsay Gray would kill her children via alcohol poisoning. But yeah, Abonai was another very hot convention, but it's an anime convention, not a VTuber convention, although there was some VTuber material in it. It's basically a giant party. It is a lot of drunken Dutch people, and the nice thing about Dutch people is that they tend to be, substantially thinner than the American or British averages, so there was rather a lot of extremely attractive people walking around at Abonai, because there was also a rave at Abonai, a lot of them were wearing not a vast amount of clothing, shall we say, and I got some rather nice pictures from that rave, which was quite fun, shall we say. I had quite a few lovely discussions with various interesting people, and I got to drink a rather large amount of booze, which was very, very good booze. The people that I was with, they made what they call jungle juice before they went because they wanted something to share with their friends. And so they made something like, basically it was an entire bucket. It was multiple gallons, at least 20 bottles of jungle juice. I'd have to ask someone exactly what it was, but it had a lot of rum in it. It had a lot of fruit juice in it. It had a lot of, I think it was 7-Up, Sprite, something in it, and it was extremely, extremely good. And there were 2 entire stalls dedicated to selling mead at Abonai. Mead happens to be my favorite alcohol of all. I absolutely love mead, it's basically honey wine. And I bought 2 large bottles of mead, which I could not bring home with me because I only took carry-on baggage because Ryanair is a cheapskate, and I am very happy to pay less than 120 euros for a back and forth flight to the Netherlands, which meant, but that price was only available if I only took carry-on baggage. And guess what? You cannot take alcohol in your carry-on baggage. So I stayed in the Netherlands for an extra day and a half after I left Abonai. And that day and a half was quite fun because I shared 2 large bottles of mead with the boyfriend of the person that I was staying with. And we had a very, very pleasant time, shall we say. There was also quite a lot of mead sharing at the event itself. Mordecai, I've been meaning to try mead lately. Anywhere you get mead regularly from. You see, that's the problem. The problem is that Ireland is basically a Guinness and spirits kind of country. The first time I was exposed to mead was when I went to Galway, which is in the far west of Ireland. I went to Galway with my parents for like a weekend away. It was a very pleasant holiday. Galway is a lovely place, by the way. If you're in Ireland, you should definitely try and see Galway. It is a very scenic, very touristy, but in a good way kind of city. It has a lot of character, and they have preserved the place rather beautifully. But yeah, they had, I think it's called the Cliffs of Moher, or something like that. It's a tourist attraction, and they had a gift shop which sold locally produced mead. That was the best alcohol I have ever tasted in my life. It even beat out the €100 plus bottle of whiskey that the friend of mine who runs a distillery gave me as a gift. And the trouble is, Galway is basically the only place you can find the damn stuff. So I was incredibly happy when I went to Abernai and I saw not one, but two stalls selling remarkably cheap bottles of extremely delicious mead. It is very sweet. You will have to get used to the fact that mead is it's pretty much just fermented honey. I mean, you can do a whole ton of stuff with it, but it tastes incredibly sweet. If you like dry alcohol, stay the hell away from mead. The cliffs of Moher, you mean? Yes, those are the exact cliffs that I'm talking about. I am sorry if I have completely butchered that pronunciation, but again, I do not speak Irish. I am a true-blooded son of perfidious Albion, which means that I can only possibly sound racist when trying to pronounce the heathen names of other countries and locations they're in. It's like how I get mad at... yeah, I went to America as well in March, and I got very mad at people who were pronouncing Worcester as Worcestershire. That is a pet peeve of mine. That's how you tell a real Brit from a fake Brit, okay? If you suspect that someone is a fake Brit, ask them, like, no, don't ask them how they pronounce it, because then you would have to say what it is. Like, Google Worcestershire sauce or Worcestershire, as in that's how you spell it, and then ask them to say that name. If they say Worcestershire instead of Worcester, they are a fake Brit, and you should kill them immediately. Like 100% they are culturally appropriating my country. They should die. If you hate that pronunciation, what's the American cooking channels calling it? Wash your sister's sauce. Oh. Lol, so is like with, is it Louisville instead of Louisville? I think it's Louisville and Arkansas. It is funny in the first, like, 5 times. Yeah, then you want to commit murder. Ah, dear. But yeah, I was in America. It was lovely. Oh, another thing about Abunai, and I was quite rushed preparing for this stream, so because of the whole polishing off a roof whole thing. But next stream, I will bring up some pictures of the very special place that I found in Abunai. It was a kimono museum. It was run by a pair of extremely autistic female Dutch artists who were avid kimono collectors, and they had some of the most beautiful, authentic Japanese kimonos I have ever seen. They were completely gorgeous, and I took very many pictures, which I will happily show on stream after I have extracted them from my phone. And I was also incredibly lucky because my mother happens to be a textile artist, and this was a museum, it was not a shop. So these kimonos, and I think they're also called obi, like they're the kimono wrappings, they were not for sale. However, when I went in, I saw autistic Dutch lady, and she with several of the convention organizers who were also women, and they were digging through her like chests where she had extra kimonos and obis that she hadn't put on direct display, but she was showing specifically them. And I happened to be in the room when I overheard her saying that although she doesn't normally sell those things, she was going to make a gift of one of them to one of her convention friends. And so I patiently waited until said convention friend wandered away, and then I was like sliding into those DMs, and I was like, hey, you know, my mother is a very old textile artist, and she really loves Japanese fabric, as do I. Would you, I completely understand that these are not conventionally for sale. I can see that you take great care of them because, I mean, she did. Like, autistic Dutch lady, she's going to keep them in absolutely pristine condition. Would you be okay if I made my mother's heart extremely happy by potentially taking one of these off you And she was like, well, normally I wouldn't, but my husband tells me I have too many of these already. And she had like hundreds. She had stacks of them that weren't even on display. This was quite a big room. She had all the walls and corners filled. She had multiple display stands. She must have had hundreds and hundreds of kimonos in that place. And so she said, yeah, my husband thinks I'm getting too many of them, so I'm okay with parting with maybe one more if there's one that you really like. And in the end, I bought one of the obi off her. And it was really beautiful. It was very thematic. It wasn't necessarily the one I absolutely wanted. Like, she had some stunningly beautiful ones, like incredibly intricate, ornate, and detailed, that had like gold. I love how the Japanese use gold thread in lots of things, like iridescent and metallic thread. Like, some of them were so gorgeous, such detailed work and detailed paintings, like depicted in these tapestries and everything. But in the end, I settled on a very thematic one which had birds on it. So I now have that in my collection, and I am going to hoard it like a Jew with a piece of, well, we won't go there. They sell really nice secondhand obi in Japan for under $10. Yeah, Azihara, when I go to Japan, again, no set date, that's rather outside my price range just at the moment, but when I eventually get to Japan, I am probably going to bring quite a lot of extra luggage, and I'm probably going to buy an awful lot of Japanese textiles and things like that, because I am completely addicted. Like, at Dokumi is where I bought myself a haori, that is a Japanese men's coat. And that was in 2025. And then I went back to Dokumi this year and I bought myself another haori. And I will buy another haori, at least one, when I go there in 2027 as well, because haori are unironically one of the nicest pieces of clothing I have ever worn. They are wonderful. If you ever get a chance to try one on, what's really great about them is that they're double-sided. You can turn them inside out and use the interior lining as like a second external lining if you want. So the one that I bought is a very nice decorative pattern on the outside, but it also has a lovely kind of semi-iridescent silver leaf pattern on the inside, which is also incredibly good at deflecting heat. So that was how I wore it when I was at Abunai. If you ever see a weird-looking autistic guy walking around with a silver-white haori, that's probably me at a convention, because, yeah, that is pretty much the best convention wear I can possibly endorse, because haori are also very light, and they are pure silk. They are remarkably durable. I've worn mine to like 3 conventions now, for like 3 days each, including on transport and going out to restaurants afterwards. Not a single speck of dirt or dust or stains on any of them. So they're remarkably hard wearing for being really light and seemingly delicate. If it gets too hot, you can just take them straight off and stick them in your pack, and they weigh virtually nothing, and they take up virtually no space. They fold up into almost nothing. And yeah, you can just slip them on, slip them off. You can wear them with the sleeves in or out. I generally like to leave the sleeves like draped across my arms as opposed to having my arms in the sleeves. Pardon me. I find that is a far preferable way to wear them, because it also leaves my arms nice and free, and my personal training regime, my Get Swole regime, has unfortunately decreased somewhat due to the intense heat that we have been suffering here in Europe for the past several months. But I'm hoping to get at least a few good gym sessions in again before I go to Vexpo in late September. I think it's the 17th to the 23rd off the top of my head, but don't quote me on that. So yeah, I hope to have nice big biceps, and a haori is a fantastic way to show off muscular forearms and biceps, because the sleeves just barely come down over your top bicep, and a black haori is a very good way to highlight them. Do you think there is a crossover? Also, hello, Waterwall5566. Do you think there is a crossover between Clancy supporters and pit mommies? Yes, absolutely. I think if you made a Venn diagram of women who like have pit bulls and children and also supported Lindsay Clancy, yeah, that Venn diagram would be rather squashed. Just get an air conditioner. That's the problem, is that I can't really get an air conditioner for my shed. That doesn't really work. It's a fairly open space. I usually have all the windows open. It would not really work. It's insulated, admittedly, but it's a bit too much expense. I usually, like, I'm perfectly fine. Here's the thing. I'm perfectly fine with just a desk fan. A desk fan in this heat is still wonderful. It keeps everything cool. The problem is the ambient temperature combined with the humidity. If I get up to exercise, then, oh, that's not fun. Like, it's funny. I can do like half the number of reps I normally can. Like, I can normally do like 20 to 30 reps with a 16 kilogram dumbbell when it's cold. If it's hot, I can do maybe 10, and then I am completely exhausted. And I mean, it's annoying, deep fatigue in my body. And I think it's entirely because I just overheat. Like, my body was not designed for these temperatures. I would not be surprised if I had a substantial amount of Nordic blood coursing through my veins, because at temperatures higher than about 18 degrees Celsius at the highest, I just start to shut the hell down. Can you squat 200 pounds below parallel? Unfortunately not, because as I said earlier, one of my problems is that I have seemingly great genetics for my arms and my legs, like my walking stamina, my running stamina, and my tolerance for like arm dumbbell exercises is excellent. I can pump out like 3 sets of 15, 16 kilogram dumbbell reps with my arms and be perfectly fine the next day at this point. My arms they blow up and they stay really strong. I very rarely get muscle strain. My back and my core, on the other hand, are very, very bad. And unfortunately, I think that's genetic, because my father also has an extremely weak back. It was one of the reasons why he did not make it in the military. He attended the military academy in Britain when he was young, like 50 years plus by now. But yeah, and he said that was one of the reasons. Like, you could do pretty much everything except for most of the core strength stuff, because he just had a weakness in his back. And that's the thing, I feel it too. That's the problem. My back gives me absolutely zero warning when I've overstrained it. A Proctor stream while Kirsha streams? Did Russia announce nukes flying or what? I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. If you have a weak back, you should focus on that to prevent injury. Yeah, I do, and I try my best. I have a problem with I think it's something like exterior, I'm trying to remember the muscle grouping. I believe it's my right external oblique. That's like the muscle that you crunch when you wiggle your torso from side to side. That thing is a massive pain in the ass, because, as I said, I can do like 20 reps with a heavy dumbbell range to failure, 3 sets to failure in a row, and my arm will maybe hurt a little bit the next day, but I could do like another 2 sets within 24 hours without risking a serious muscle strain. But without fail, my right external oblique will twinge afterwards, and I have to be quite careful after that, because if I push it much harder, it really, really, really hurts, and it takes a long time to recover. Morpar Newport, dude, if you're on about back injuries, I have a long sword tail here. TLDR, repetitive rotation / stress injury from work. I was too retarded to go to WCB due to crooked corpus. I'm afraid I don't know what WCB is. But yeah, that sounds familiar. It's very frustrating, honestly, because, again, I feel like I'm doing really well in terms of my limbs. All both sets of my limbs seem to gain muscle mass very easily, although I still have quite thin wrists for a man and small hands. But anything to do with my core, I have to be really, really careful. Otherwise, I just. And the annoying thing is, I feel fine immediately afterwards. It's only after I go to sleep and wake back up that I realize, oh god, I am absolutely in agony. I can barely move. Which is really annoying, because you'd think that, like, if you push your arms to failure, your arms are going to feel like shit afterwards. They are going to feel awful. You're going to be in serious pain, but you'll know when you can stop. Whereas I can do like 15 to 20 sit-ups or like ab crunches or whatever and feel fine afterwards. And then when I go to sleep and when I wake up, I'll be like, why did I do that to myself? And it's like, it's so annoying. Why can't it just like twinge a little or like give me a bit of a pain to say, hey, stop it, and not be like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm really not fine anymore. That's really, really bothersome. Workers' Compensation Board in Canada, government insurance for work. Basically, I go up for another MRI to figure it, and arthritis. Every day is another adventure in pain, my friend. I feel really sorry for you. That sounds pretty terrible. Again, both my parents suffer at this stage in their lives from rather serious joint pain, so I feel very sorry for you. You have my earnest and deepest sympathies. Moki1518, you might benefit from tracking or using lower weights to focus on mind-muscle connection. That wouldn't be too bad of an idea. I am definitely going to get back into it, unfortunately, because I have not exercised for about 3 weeks at this point. I am going to have to go down to some lower weights anyway, because there's no way I can do like the maximum that I used to be. I will say that doing dead hangs is wonderful. Dead hangs are the definition of like no pain, no gain. Doing dead hangs is one of the most agonizing forms of exercise you can imagine. Like just dangling from the ceiling by your arms, your fingers feel like they are on fire. Your arms feel as if they are being wrenched out of their sockets. You will have difficulty breathing. I have managed 2 minutes, like my personal best is 2 minutes, dead hangs. Average is about 1 minute 30. I try and do at least 2 minutes a day. In total, that is, usually 2 sets of 1 minute each, although sometimes I'll do like 1 minute 30 if I'm feeling good. But after you've done your dead hangs, your back will feel amazing. Like it will feel, if you've ever like worn a heavy rucksack and carried it for a long distance, that feeling when you sling the rucksack off your shoulders, it's genuinely close to orgasmic. The feeling of just total relief and limberness and overall the literal weight of your shoulders, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Dead hangs are very underrated, great for rib positioning and shoulder separation. Yep, I completely agree. I think they're amazing. They're one of the exercises that I can do at the moment, because another problem with my shed is that it has a fairly thin wooden floor that is also raised off the ground, because it's kind of hard to have a shed that is level with the ground when you're on a floodplain. That tends not to work out too well. A wooden shed on a floodplain is not a shed that lasts very long. So unfortunately, I can't have like heavy barbells. Is that what the long hand, like the two-handed, like whole body weights are called? Because dumbbells are the small ones. I think barbells are the big ones. Yeah. So I can't really have barbells. So my ability to do things like, what are they called? Full lifts or whatever. I can't really do those. Those are barbells. Yep, I thought they were barbells. So that's quite unpleasant. I wish I could, but unfortunately also gyms near me tend to be extraordinarily expensive. One moderate relief I sometimes reach for: a natural geothermal, high sulfur, high mineral hot springs theater near me. I can fall asleep in the one near me. That sounds genuinely wonderful. I really hope those do work for you, because honestly, if I had those near me, I would probably take advantage very much myself. You can get a cheap squat rack, which is good. I may look into it. Unfortunately, it's just a case of like my space is quite limited. And I'm one of those autists that tends to fill any space that I'm in with very large amounts of random junk. My shed at the moment is rather full, mostly of model kits, which I still need to build. Apart from that, yeah, just to kind of catch up on what I was saying earlier, another thing that I've been doing recently is welding. I have been on welding courses for the past couple of months. Currently, I'm on break from them. I've been doing MIG, metal inert gas welding, and the next welding that I'm going to be doing is TIG, aka tungsten inert gas welding. I really love welding. It is very much a newfound passion for me. I have not bought a home welder at the moment, but I think that will be my next major purchase, because welding is a really, really, really good skill to develop. You could also get a woman's bar, which is about 9 kilograms lighter. I mean, yeah, I'm not ashamed to say that I'm not one of those people that persistently tries to go for massively heavy weights. Like 16 kilograms on dumbbells is about all that I can manage, because the trouble is with larger dumbbells, they get incredibly awkward. And I've got a pair of dumbbells, they go up to 20 kilograms, but the problem with those is they are so massive, is it's actually harder to kind of lift them, not so much because of the weight itself, but just the sheer size and the way they bear down under gravity. They're far more awkward than, say, lifting a 20 kilogram bucket of something. So I find them really annoying. So around 15, 16 kilograms is pretty much my maximum. But again, if I can do like 3 sets of 16 kilograms every couple of days, I think that's pretty damn good. That's pretty damn good. I've had several compliments as to my figure and as to my muscle growth, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not going for the massive roided out steroid look. It would be nice, but again, one of the things that I would really love, again, another thing that I find really annoying about my core is that it's difficult for me to shift my like visceral fat around my stomach. Again, the trouble is, every time you look up how to shift visceral fat, like 99.9% of the advice is, oh, cut out junk food, or, don't drink soft drinks, or, eat organic. I live on a farm. I grow a large amount of my own food. I eat clean, okay? I maybe get junk food 1 meal out of every 30. I am already doing all of those things. And guess what? I still can't get a flat stomach. That's really annoying. It is very frustrating. The short answer is you really can't shift. You can slim down, but the body will hold whatever it sees fit. Yep, that's the truth. That's the problem, is that pretty much all the ways to cut like visceral fat also requires you to run a caloric deficit. And guess what happens when you run a caloric deficit? You lose muscle tone as well. So my choice is either put up with the fact that I have a soft belly, or I actively eat away at my limb muscle, which is in a place what I really like, in order to cut down on my visceral fat. And like my visceral fat, although that's the thing, I can feel it really unpleasantly. Like I'm like tapping my stomach right now. I can feel the softness, and from like a body image perspective, I really, really dislike it. I hate looking at myself and knowing that it's there. But at the same time, if I wear like a black shirt or something, and I always wear black too, which helps, and I stand sideways, I've got a flat stomach. Like it's that fact. it's I have a flat stomach. It's just not really got much tone to it, and so people look at me and go, "Hey, you're not fat." Whereas I'm like, "No, I feel fat. You don't understand. I'm literally becoming a woman in real time. I am actively developing an eating disorder because of this feeling. Well, no, not an eating disorder. Thank God. But like, I can understand now why women do develop sleeping eating disorders, and why they get such body image problems, because just dealing with this sensation around my stomach that I don't want to have. It's like, I don't like this, but people aren't looking at it. They're not looking at me and seeing a fat person anymore. They're seeing a slender, toned person. I'm like, no, I'm not. Please, please call me the disgusting slug that I am. Except please don't, because that'll make me cry. uh, Mocky, if you work core, you'll get a bigger stomach no matter what. Gee, thanks. That's great news. No, I'm very much in the coping stage of all that thing right now. Okay. Let me just check. And of course, people start. This is always the thing. People always DM me when I am streaming. It's like magic. I can go for like a week with barely any DMs. The moment I start streaming, half a dozen people instantly DM me. I'm gonna go quiet for like 5 seconds to read what was sent to me. So give me a moment, please, chat. Oh, I love having an extremely autistic economist for a best friend, because he just randomly sends me experiences from his work that I find that are worded in a very funny way. I think I'll read this out on stream, and then we will get to the extremely depressing and miserable part of this stream where I start ranting and get called a misogynist on Twitter for the next 10 years. Who cares? They already think I'm a misogynist. So, my friend, who, for context, is an extremely autistic economist, he says, "So I went to brunch with a guy who is a card carrying member of the part of the problem demographic. He's a private equity vampire, middle aged. I've never seen him so nervous. He says, they're making us buy equity in the fund this year. I say, how much of your total compensation? He says, 5%. And I say, so what, 10 to 12 for the associates? He says, 15%. I say, oh, your whole office must be on industrial quantities of tranquilizers. He says, one of my partners did pay $1,500 for a bottle of Valium, yeah. And so he tells me, forcing them to buy in is a vote of no confidence that requires they throw good money in for bad debt. It makes the fund look more profitable than it realistically is. When even the vampires who make their living by leeching off the productive facets of civilization are starting to be forcibly saturated with bad debt, you know the inflation death spiral is gaining inertia. And so I asked him, what do you think the outcome of this will be? And so he says to me, honestly, I think this guy and his sycophants are going to be the people most likely to leap from skyscrapers if the market went belly up tomorrow. Ultimately, the market is due for a correction, and the boys at the top would love nothing more than to leave Mr. Vampire and his fledglings in the public eye holding the bag. I think he'll likely die before he's old. He's aged 5 years in the last 18 months. Anyone who has more than 20 to 30% of their net worth tied into that fund, when the lid blows off and the funds blow away, will probably kill themselves. Simply because when the fund implodes, they lose their job, their credibility, their career, a massive chunk of their assets, and none of their expenses. When faced with the choice between rapidly scaling back my life and tempering my expectations now that the gravy train has pulled into its terminal station, or leaving my car running in a closed-off garage, they are not going to stick around to suffer the consequences of their actions." It's raining men, hallelujah. Oh, believe me, when the finance bros finally start to reap the whirlwind they've been blowing on for the last couple of years, me in my basically self-sufficient farmhouse far away from civilization, I will be extremely happy to just pour myself a cocktail, sit out on the sun deck, and watch it all burn to hell. Because, like, the whole reason my family were stuck for getting our house for the last 3 or 4 years is that we had an agreement with our landowners that when they sold the place, we would get first bidding on the property for a pre-agreed price that was like about 100,000 euros, which is basically what the property has been assessed at. Okay, we have had multiple assessments on this property that said, yeah, it's worth about 100,000. When they wanted to sell in 2023, they wanted to put it on the open market for a starting bid of 250,000 euros. Now, when I say starting bid, I want to say that around that time, before we had been able to, because we basically, it's a very long, convoluted story that I won't go into, but basically, we had to pretty much threaten to take them to court to get them to honor the agreement that we could have first bid at it. We had to threaten them with a whole lot of stuff. It was a very nasty business, and it was like 2024 to early 2025 was unironically the most stressful and miserable time of my entire life. But yeah, around here, for a while, we looked at other properties because we could afford to pay around maybe 250 to 300k. And that was for properties that were substantially inferior to the one that we're in right now. Keep in mind that this is not a good property to begin with. The only reason this property is basically livable at all is because we have put 25 years of our life into making sure that it is livable. And so we went out to see a whole bunch of places and we're like, okay, maybe we can buy this place, maybe we can buy that place in an absolute total emergency. We have no other option because good fucking luck getting the Irish government to give you like emergency housing or anything when they've got infinity jeets to populate the place instead. Every property that was listed at around 250 to 300 eventually went for around 500 to 600,000. And these were places that were unironic shitholes, like places with broken roofs, with a pencil case worth of garden land that were needed. Imagine paying 600,000 euros for maybe a third of an acre of property with a broken down old house in the middle of it that you need to demolish and rebuild from scratch. Like, they were paying 600,000 euros for what was essentially a plot of land with a giant pile of garbage on it that they would have to demolish and completely remove at the cost of maybe like 30,000-40,000 just to start building a new property from scratch for another few hundred thousand at bare minimum. Usually more like 500,000 for a really modern house. So you're looking at people that were willing to, as a start, drop 1 million euros on a property in Ireland. Ireland has a population density on average of 13 people per square kilometre. We have a population of under, I think it might be just over 6 million by now. We have one of the lowest population densities in all of Europe. There is a gargantuan amount of space in Ireland that has no properties on it whatsoever. Even then, the most remote places in Ireland that are literally on islands that you need to have a boat or a weekly ferry to get in and out of are going for like 300,000 euros, absolute bare minimum starting bid. What were they thinking? That is what you might find for property a couple of 100 feet off a beachfront in places in Florida? God, don't even get me started. Like, this genuinely had me tearing my hair out for months on end. The homeless slash immigration industrial complex at work. Again, like that whole affair was a major reason why I did not stream, and I kind of dialed back my internet presence an awful lot in 2024 to 2025, because it was very, very, very stressful, very miserable, very unfortunate. I could probably write a book on the bullshit that we encountered during that system. I could do an entire stream on that by itself. I'm not going to let it metastasize into taking over more than this, because we're like an hour into stream when I haven't gotten to the main topic. My family home in Yukon, Northwest Canada is 110 by 220, its own water and sewer, not overly concerned if the world goes to Hades. You better be ready to defend that place to the death, because what you're sitting on right there is absolute solid gold, and I mean that in the most literal sense possible. Like, places like that, yeah, they can survive pretty much anything. I think that, you see, I can understand why people are willing to drop that much money on a place, because it's like you just need somewhere. You need somewhere in this world at the moment where you can be safe. Arclux, they understand supply and demand, but still make development hard while importing thousands of immigrants. Makes you think, yeah, it really does. Trust me. There are many streams I could probably do on that topic alone. That might well get me kicked off YouTube for some of the things that I say. It would involve considerable mention of men in funny hats and merchant guilds, shall we say. That reminds me, I'll have to look it up. There was something on Twitter a few months ago about a guy, a Jewish, like, demographic analyst or something, who was like one of the major people pushing for like migration in Europe, and he was given an interview where he talked about, oh yeah, it's all about, giving homes to desperate poor people. We want to be as humanitarian and loving as possible. And I think people on Twitter analyzed his office from that interview, and they saw that on his wall he had a list of population demographic figures from the last 20 years or so, and he was like meticulously tracking specifically the decline in the percentage of the white population in Europe, and like marking it with exclamation marks and little like happy signs. I mean, all I'm going to say is that I am really, really happy that Elon Musk bought Twitter, because the amount of knowing in capitalized letters, like knowing in parenthesis, that is happening on Twitter right now is genuinely heartwarming to see. Like, I love seeing it. I have my mobile phone. What I do is, on my PC, I have a browser extension that filters Twitter basically to only the people posts from followers or people connected to the people that I follow. So I've got a very curated home feed, so it's mostly like VTubers, cute art, stuff like that. But on my mobile, I just have purely an unfiltered Twitter. And I also like to share all of the interesting posts that I find on Twitter to my private Discord, where I keep track of things. And because of that, Twitter has learned very much the kind of content that I want to see and that I'm likely to save. And yeah, the amount of knowing that Twitter plasters all over my mobile phone feed at night, just before I go to bed, I spend like 10 to 20 minutes just scrolling through that feed and like copying links to my Discord. Oh, it's just so much fun. It is genuinely delightful to see the astonishing level of sheer unbridled vitriol being poured upon the gods very much not chosen anymore nation on that feed. And like a year or so ago, it was all like danger hares with like watermelon emojis and Palestinian flags in their bios doing it. Now it's an awful lot of young conservative men Like, the knowing has very much breached party lines. Multiple demographics are now very much in the know. And it is very pleasant to see. It is one of the few things that gives me genuine hope for the future, the sheer amount of knowing that is going on in places like Twitter. There is a very big reason why an awful lot of European countries are now desperately trying to ban Twitter at all costs. Because the great knowing and the great noticing has very much begun, and I am absolutely delighted to see it. But speaking of Twitter, please give me a moment while I go through my very long list of tabs, and I'm also going to try and remember how the hell OBS works. Studio mode. If I go over to gaming preview, right, because I have not used OBS in an awful long time, and when I first opened it up, it started screaming at me to update, and it started screaming at me to log into everything. I am astonished about how well everything is held up, because my OBS was outdated by like 20 updates or something from last year or the year before, but I logged back into everything, I loaded everything up, things seem to be working just fine, honestly. And also, just a quick question for people. Has there been any latency, delay, any, as Kirsche would call it, red squares or anything? Let me just check stream health, because another rather major development is that in the last year, I have actually got fiber optic broadband now, and my upload speed is something like 700 megabits a second now. My download speed is like several gigabits, which is really pleasant. Let me just check stream health. Stream health is excellent. Stream settings. Yeah, it seems as if... Sorry, give me 1 second. I need to mute my microphone and have a great big belch. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Seems much better than your old streams. Yep, it should bloody well be better. In fact, when we first got fiber optic broadband in, I realized that my router was actually insufficient to keep up with the speed. I was like hard capped at something like 200 megabits up and down because of my old router. So I had to upgrade my router just to be able to take advantage of the additional speed of fiber optic broadband, which was, you know, it was a good problem to have, a very good problem to have. I am very, very happy with this. So from now on, streams should be extremely smooth and extremely efficient. But anyway, I have nattered on about my life for far too damn long. So, gentlemen, are you ready? Are you ready to hate women? Are you ready to level up your misogyny? Because this is an unironic warning. If you were not misogynist before this stream, you may very well become misogynist as a result of this stream. I will not take responsibility for any misogynistic tendencies that you develop as a part of this stream. Azahara, ready? I already crossed the finish line. Yes, Azahara, we know very well how you view the foids. I'm sad that Cubanodum isn't here. I mean, he might be here, might just be lurking. Actually, I'm going to yell at him on stream. You're missing my stream. You need to level up. Level up your woman hating more. There you go. Just a reference. Cubanoman has been a extremely helpful person to me over the last couple of months. He is like God's strongest Venezuelan, and he is also responsible for the PNG that you currently see before you right now. Because the basis for this PNG is like that meme of the guy in the old guy in the red shirt shrugging. Cubanoman is extremely good with AI. He is quite well known to certain people right now, and there are actually a couple of people out there who I believe now have outfit ideas based on the genuinely extraordinarily good AI generations that he's made of their characters. I'm fairly sure he also generates a decent amount of porn because he's a Latino and, he can't say hi to a woman without also calling her a whore. But the funny thing is, women seem to like him a remarkably large amount. Like, he can get away with saying shit to women that would get me cancelled and thrown out of every community space that has women that I ever know. It's really kind of funny. I have never had more reason to curse the whiteness of my skin than after I have seen how Latinos can get away with interacting with white women on places like Twitter and Discord. He has the inferior culture buff. Someone... Oh, that's... I was going to say someone knee, and then I realized that your name is literally someone. Is this where we all panic over the fact that any given woman you meet on the street has a solid chance of seeing herself in that serial killer? Oh, we're going to get to that, but let's start tabbing over to some of the madness. There might be a tiny bit of a kerfuffle here because, as I mentioned earlier, I am not wearing headphones, so my desktop audio is through my tinny built-in flat screen TV speakers. So I will have to finagle things a little bit and mute my microphone while playing some of the stuff here. So let's get into it. Also, please tell me, because it is very hard for me to judge on flat screen speakers how loud things are. If videos that I am playing are too quiet or too loud, please tell me in chat so that I will be able to adjust the volume. That is a great help to me because the audio speakers in OBS are very much not helpful in this case. But yeah, let's talk about this nonsense. So here we have this wonderful individual. This is Defiant Els, who I also really like, exposing hypocrisy one day at a time. And he is saying, some women on TikTok who are into astrology. Now, I want to say, when he says some women, I have also seen a depressing number of gay men doing this as well, okay? There was one video of a guy talking with an incredibly annoying gay lisp. I can't even replicate it. Talking about about star signs in relation to this case. So it also fuels the whole thing about, I really do think that an awful lot of gay men are just kind of overly feminine because they seem to think very much like women in this case. But yeah, some women on TikTok who are into astrology say that Lindsay Clancy couldn't have killed her children because she's a Leo, saying her now ex-husband Patrick Clancy did it because he's a Gemini born June 14th. Oh my god, I didn't even read this part. And that's Donald Trump's birthday. Oh. I didn't even read that part when I first looked at this tweet. I just watched the video. Oh my god. Anyway, I'm going to mute my microphone and then play this video, and hopefully the audio will not blow anybody's ears out. I do apologize in advance if it indeed blows your ears out.
Okay, check this out. It's really crazy. Lindsay Clancy's birth chart. It's so crazy. Now, I don't have the time of birth, so really, you can disregard the ascendant, descendant, IC, MC, vertex, and all the houses. I need the birth time. So not all of these aspects are necessarily true, because all those points, we don't really know. I just put it at noon. But first of all, let me just show. Okay, so notice anything here? She's got her North Node Aquarius, South Node Leo. She's in her nodal return right now.
It's been a while, but I have to pop on here just to say that I've been following this Lindsay Clancy trial, especially as a mother of two who dealt with a lot of postpartum mental illness. And, just following all their birth charts and birthdays and zodiac signs. He did it. He's a Gemini man. His birthday is June 15th. I'm a Gemini woman. My birthday is June 14th. Let me give you another example of who a Gemini man is. Also birthday June 14th. Men and women are different. Keep that in mind. Please don't judge me. Donald Trump. Patrick did it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
So if you're watching the Lindsay Clancy case, I've already gone over the forensic astrology charts that show that the perpetrator is a male, the perpetrator is having an affair, and that the victims, specifically Lindsay, was drugged during this. And I've also gone over with the theory and the lie detection.
I'm telling you all right now, when the South Node goes into Cancer in March of 2028, the South Node is going to transit over Patrick Clancy's moon in Cancer. He's going to be having eclipses over his natal moon, which is home, family, emotions, his emotional life. And then it gets better. 2029, all the way into 2030, he is going to have eclipses over his Gemini placements. The South Node is going to move over his Sun, his Mercury retrograde, his Venus retrograde. It's about to get real interesting in the next, 3 to 4 years for him. I'm grabbing my popcorn. I can't wait for this man to be humbled and for karma to do its thing.
You know, when you listen to this kind of thing, you kind of, from my perspective, as someone who is in his mid-30s by now, I remember watching old TV serials and so on where they would talk about astrology. They would have astrology as a topic, and the kind of people that they would stereotype as being into astrology were the ultra hippie types. You know, the kind with the floral pattern dresses, the really weird frizzy hair, the huge dangling ear piercings, that kind of thing, like a total stereotype. And for years, that was my impression of what the kind of person who would be into astrology would look like and be all about. But you look at these women and you see, I'm going to turn this down in case Twitter is annoying, and look at this kind of woman. This kind of woman right here, you can tell, does she have a septum ring? I think she does have a septum ring. I can vaguely see it in that slightly blurry photograph image. But she looks like a fairly normal kind of woman. She doesn't look insane necessarily. Shame going along here. This kind of woman, she looks fairly normal. I mean, the camera is definitely adding a bit to her, but yeah, there's no weird filters or anything here. She looks perfectly normal. And then you move on to, well, you can't really see all that much of that woman's face. I'd say there's a few beauty filters working there. I mean, my God, look at those eyes, darling. That is not flattering in any capacity. Woman versus accountability were never more than a tragic. Were there ever a more tragic combo? Yeah, you could just find one in a Tesco. And then here we have this. I mean, yeah, she looks normal for current standards, unfortunately, which is not saying much. But these overall are fairly normal-looking women. As was just said, you would find these kind of people shopping in Tesco or some other reasonably upmarket kind of store. These are not the kind of women you would expect to be unironically saying that a woman who murdered 3 of her... Because just in case you have no idea who this person is, this lovely lady here, who look at her. I mean, she actually looks remarkably attractive. She's a normal person. And she's in a wheelchair at the moment because her back is broken. Her back is broken because she threw herself off a 2-story window after strangling her 3 children to death, one after another, in a locked room. And I think she went from youngest to oldest as well. So I want you... unfortunately... I have... I'm sorry. I have quite a high IQ. And I also have a fairly active imagination. That imagination has served me very well in the past. But I kind of envy people who have less of an imagination than me. Because one should not have to think about the idea of a woman like this locking her children into a room and then taking a cord and then from one to the other strangling them to death. Now, I am a man. Surprise, surprise. I am a virgin. I have never been with a woman. I do not have children. I have never grown up with children because I'm the last of three, and there is a very substantial difference between my ages and the ages of my brother and sister. To me, this kind of action is so genuinely horrifying that I cannot think of this kind of behavior without something inside of me rising up and telling me in a very calm and a very controlled voice that she needs to die for this, that she needs to be executed. I don't care about the whole postpartum depression thing. I don't care about extenuating circumstances. This is a woman who her last child, mind you, was not, I think they were a good few months old, okay? So this was not a case of a woman having a child and then within a day or two having a psychotic meltdown that nobody was aware of, and then in the throes of complete and total psychosis deciding to kill one of her children. Like that, it's not acceptable, but it is somewhat understandable from a purely psychological perspective. This woman had her last child for quite a long time. She was being actively monitored, and she waited and planned for the one time in the day where she would not be monitored by any of the, I think, like 3 people. I think it was the husband, maybe a care worker, and also I think it was a grandmother as well. She waited patiently for an opportunity for these people to all be out of the house for some reason. And then she chose to kill all 3 of her children, the youngest of which was, I believe, about 5 months old. And that's like the context for all of this. And so to me, the simple idea that there are women out there who read the facts about this case and then say something as utterly unhinged and mindlessly incoherent as, oh, it was the husband because of his star signs. Like, on one level, I'm quite a fan of dark humor. I find some of this genuinely funny on an abstract level as just a reaction to it. But when you start to think about it, facts versus women, another tragic coupling, yeah. And if these were like isolated cases, because unfortunately with the proliferation of social media, there's always going to be a few crazy people that devise like mad conspiracy theories and insane off-the-wall concepts about why these things happen, which I can also understand because like I have read quite a few books on psychology, I've read quite a few books on philosophy, etc. There is a very powerful urge within the human psyche to externalize evil. We do not like to conceptualize evil as being something within ourselves. So when evil things happen, it is a natural and normal psychological process to externalize that evil and project it onto another source. That's natural. But just because it's natural does not mean that it should be the thing that you cling to for the rest of your engagement with that topic. And just think, again, I'm going to pull the old corny, what if the roles were reversed? Imagine for a moment if it had been a man who had been suffering from extreme depression after his wife gave birth to a child. And under the same circumstances, he decided to kill his 3 children. Hell, if he decided to kill one of his children. How many of these women, how many men would defend him in this manner? Yes, super duper, I am in fact live. Congratulations, you're an hour and a half late exactly. Congratulations. Like, it is incomprehensible to me that any number of reasonable men would defend another man from murdering even 1 child, much less 3. Now, I also saw some parallels between this and the Kyle Rittenhouse case, where Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 dangerous, violent criminals. I believe one was a pedophile, another was a burglar and a wife beater, and I forget what the third one had done, but yeah, they were all 3 dangerous criminals. And, some men were like, he didn't need to do that. Like, him killing 3 people is excessive for those circumstances. And while I don't agree with that, while I very much think that Kyle Rittenhouse did nothing wrong, I can at least understand some of the arguments that were put forward against him being in that situation and killing those 3 people to begin with, okay? As a man, I can understand their arguments against him, especially as a European, where, hopefully that kind of thing just doesn't happen. Like, you don't get people shooting each other in the street unless they're not European, but we won't go into that. But in cases like this, you have women who were not only willing to excuse, because there are plenty of women as well who acknowledge that she did this. Okay, we are looking at the kind of people that are so insane. We are looking at the women that are so mad that they cling to the concept that this woman literally did not kill her children. It was somehow someone else because of his fucking star sign. There are plenty more women who are like, yeah, she did kill her kids, but let's not be too hard on her, okay? She had like a mental disorder. She was feeling really bad that day. We shouldn't punish this poor woman. We should be sympathizing with her. Super duper, it's not excessive at all. When you are armed and unwilling to use your weapon when attacked, you're just giving them your weapon. I mean, no, like, to be clear, I kind of understand some of the arguments about why Kyle Rittenhouse should not have been in that situation to begin with, okay? Because, I mean, he was someone from another state. I'm not going into the whole he crossed state lines. That is genuine bullshit. But, like, I can understand people that are saying he shouldn't have been in that situation where he needed to shoot 3 people to begin with. Like, I think there is at least, again, I don't agree with those arguments, but I can at least understand their conceptual basis in logic. Whereas this is absolutely insane to a degree that has, without the slightest hint of exaggeration, made me hate women considerably more than I used to. Like, I put out on Twitter a few days ago a post where I said, I've come to the conclusion that I am only attracted to women that do not act like women at all. And that is very much the case. I'm obviously physically attracted to women that very much look like women. I mean, I love me my curvy ladies. But I have never once in my life, looking at it introspectively, been attracted to a conventionally feminine-brained woman. Because the moment you delve into this kind of feminine logic, you're faced with a reality that most women are completely insane from an objective standpoint. And the things that they say, the arguments that they use, and the justifications that they have for why they make those arguments are things that to a man sound like gibberish without even the remotest, like not even something that would cross your mind if you were trying to think of the most absurd thing that someone could say. Not even on that level. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. Krieg Allo Bunsen, I think. You can't even hold a conversation with people like this. No, you can't. You really can't. And it reminds me of a story, like a parable that I heard, that I read once. I tried to look it up, but I can't find the exact wording. About a man marries a woman and builds a house for her and a wall to keep out wolves that would kill her and eat her. And the years go by, and she lives in safety with this house and this wall. And she raises children in this family, and everything is happy. But then she decides that the wall is actually a source of oppression, that the man actually built the wall in order to contain her. And so when the man is out, she tears down the wall in a great act of defiance to show that the man does not have control over her. And so the wolves come back, and they kill her, and they eat her children. And that's a parable. And when I first read that parable, I was like, this is clearly an exaggeration. There's no way a woman would actually think this. And then I started using Twitter more often. Post-birth abortion. Oh, trust me, we're going to get to some abortion stuff later on. And it just got proven right. Yes, exactly. Now, let me transition back to just chatting for a second, because I've got a whole host of stuff here that I have, of course, not ordered at all. Ah, yes, here's the next one. Shoe on Head, who is also quite an interesting person. I have known, well, not known personally or anything, but I have vaguely followed Shoe on Head for many, many years, and as she says here, over $700,000. When was this? This was like August 17th. I think it's over $800,000 now. Over $700,000 now raised for a woman who strangled 3 children to death with exercise ropes. Every single donation is from a woman. Hundreds of thousands of women in a TikTok true crime psychosis where they believe the husband did it because he looks mean. Yep, and this was... this was 728,000 of 2 million, by the way. 2 million was the goal. He broke 1 million a couple of days ago. Oh god, I thought it was only 900,000. Yeah, here's some of the comments. Fanny Creever. May God's truth and our love be with you. Don't give up. This is the biggest reason I don't believe him. Oh, yeah. Now, this is another thing that has been happening. Not only have these women... We saw a bit of that in the first video that we watched, but not only do a lot of these women believe that she is innocent or that she shouldn't be punished for this crime of murdering 3 innocent children, none of whom were over the age of like 5, maybe 9 at the outside. Dude, one of the latest donations dropped $5,000 for no reason. Please, my faith in humanity was already low. You're making it worse with every single thing you post. So thanks for that. I really appreciate that. So yeah, during the footage of the trial, of course, the husband was a witness. Now, if you're a man And three of your, I don't like having an active imagination, because if I was the husband to a woman who killed three of my children, when I learned about that, I would kill that woman. Like, I would kill her with my bare hands. No exaggeration. Like, I don't care if that sentence is used against me in a court of law later in my life. That is my God's honest truth. If a woman, even if she was my wife, killed my children, I would not let that woman live. I would kill her with my bare hands. And I would do it. I would do it whether it was in the heat of the moment, the minute after I learned of it, or if it was a year later. Like, that's just the way I'm wired. It's that simple, and I'm sorry if that goes too far for some people. I think that is genuinely the only thing that I can think of that would be a rational response to this. Again, this is not something that I would do just in the heat of passion. It would be a completely irrational decision made long afterwards. Oh yeah, that's a good point, actually, Kriegerloo Bunsen. None of these women have their own income source. If my wife dropped money on a murderer, that's grounds for divorce. Well, grounds for another murder. I ain't letting her have half of anything. I mean, I would somewhat. I do think that killing someone. I will say that killing a woman for donating is a little bit far. Like, she's supremely stupid, but that's a little bit too far. I can't quite go that far in my endorsement of violence, I'm afraid. But I can get where you're coming from. But yeah, that is a very good point. Most of these women will be donating their husband's money to this cause, not their own. Yeah, that genuinely would be sickening. But yeah, going back to the contents of this screenshot, like, the biggest reason I don't believe him is because this guy was in court testifying against his wife, and because this guy who lost three of his children looked a little bit angry while giving witness testimony about the murder of his children, women are like, oh, he looked a little bit angry. I bet he's actually the murderer. Like, they've got the wrong person in the criminal docket. It should be him, because he looked a little bit angry when talking about how his wife murdered his kids. Because that's a rational thing to do. That is a rational response. And, like, look here. Look how... God. This post got 19.8 thousand upvotes. So 20,000 people, presumably the majority of them women, thought that this post was a good thing, and they upvoted it. And I think I'm not sure how GoFundMe works, but I assume that Amber, the creator, because let me just look at let me just tab over here. Like, this is a News Nation's article. It says Lindsay Clancy's parents' GoFundMe reaches nearly 1 million. That's August 20th. Yeah, the fundraiser was started by a person named Brandy Mulligan to help Mike and Paula Musgrove rebuild the financial stability they have sacrificed over these past 3 years. Because this trial is like the result of a murder that took place, I think it was in 2023. So this is not a new murder. This is just when the trial happens, okay? Now, I want to point out the idea of a trial for a crime this obvious and this horrific taking nearly 3 years to, I think, just come to trial is a sign of a fundamentally broken civilization. Also, howdy, this topic interests me, so I'm here. Thank you, Mastern1825. Welcome in. Welcome to this very depressing stream. I strongly encourage you to go back and listen to the first hour or so of stream, where I am a lot happier and more upbeat and just talking about my personal life, because I knew I was going to be angry, okay, when I streamed this. I knew I was going to be upset. I am unironically depressed and miserable just talking about this right now. There's a fire inside of me. I am genuinely upset that there is no alcohol in my immediate vicinity, because I would be pounding back shots at this point if I had access to it. I would be drinking during this stream. It's one thing to like look up this material in advance in kind of a detached academic sort of way, and then start to cover it on the stream itself, where you're in the moment and you're kind of exposing yourself to it and actually thinking about it. It says donations will cover accumulated costs of travel, lodging, living expenses, and other family expenses due to their continued support of Clancy. Now, again, like, on an objective level, I can at least understand that the parents of this woman want to give her some form of support, because it's a natural thing to do. I don't necessarily blame these parents for standing by their daughter, because as much as I hate the crime itself, I do sincerely believe that even the worst kind of person deserves at least some support from their relatives, even if it is just for the sake of a fair and unbiased trial. Because even in the case of someone who is unbelievably evil and destructive, I think it benefits the society as a whole that those people are still treated with a basic level of humanity, because then it means that in future years, nobody who no longer has like the raw emotion of the situation burning through them has the ability to go back and say something like, oh, they weren't supported, or oh, we were unfair to them because of like external things that had nothing to do with the events themselves. That's why I think it's very important that these kind of things still happen, even if I obviously don't like them. But yeah, Clancy is in the 4th week of her murder trial, where she is accused of killing her 3 young children in 2023. Her defense states that she was suffering from postpartum psychosis, while prosecutors say the killings were planned and intentional. For more than 3 years, Mike and Paula have shown up for Lindsay, the fundraiser states. The fundraiser states that they are retired and that Mike Musgrove is a photographer, and the couple have spent years drawing down their savings to cover travel, lodging, and living costs. Nothing about this fund asks anyone to share their view of Lindsay or the criminal case. Now remember that, because of what we just looked at. Now you saw Shoe on Head's like post about this, and these are the kind of things that people are posting on that GoFundMe. Like, do you think that these women that are donating to Lindsay Clancy's parents' fund are donating because they just want to support the parents who are having to deal with their monster of a child and their actions in life? Like, they're not. You can see that very blatantly. This is the biggest reason I don't believe him. They are donating because they believe their money will in some form go to this poor innocent woman who is only a victim of this evil misogynistic man who either, in the best case scenario in their minds, somehow forced her to kill her children, or in the worst case, is actually the killer somehow magically, even though he has an ironclad alibi. He was literally out of the house. Multiple people can attest to the fact that he was out of the house. Like, there is no question that he is not the killer, because she also admitted doing it and threw herself off a 2-story window out of guilt for doing it afterwards. Or maybe, I don't even think she did it out of guilt. I think she did it because she just didn't want to face the consequences of her actions. He manifested their deaths from the 7-Eleven using the blood of cheats as a sacrifice. The girly pop, sorry, I'm just reading Discord. The girly pop browser is a choice. Like, Cubanodum, I did not have a choice. This is just the default when I created this profile. I don't know why it's like livid purple, okay? That's not my fault. It's just a random color that Brave chose to make it when I made it a streamer profile, okay? That's not my fault, and I can't be asked to change it. Super duper, as a person who spends a significant amount of time teaching kids how to protect themselves, seeing this cuts real deep. How in the world can a mother be so heartless towards her own children? Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Oh, but she was really depressed, don't you know? And when you're really depressed, you just get murderous urges towards your own children. And, like, here's the thing. There is a world out there where she got super depressed and just threw herself off a 2-story building. And either broke her back again or actually managed to kill herself. And, like, that's still tragic. That would be genuinely tragic, okay? A woman driven by postpartum psychosis, which is a real thing, okay? Postpartum psychosis does exist, and it does cause women to do crazy things. But if she had just killed herself, or seriously injured herself, like, that would be a tragic case where she deserves sympathy and she deserves support, okay? It's stupid. It's really, really damn stupid, but guess what? Mentally ill people do stupid things all the time. I think that you cross the bounds of stupid and enter absolutely horrifyingly evil when you decide to externalize that depression, that psychosis, and project it onto other people. Like 3 innocent children, all of whom were, I think, from 5 to 9, 5 months to 9. And you decide to strangle them all to death, one by one, in a locked room. It's like, I'm not repeating what she did because I think you're stupid and you've forgotten, or because I'm trying to shock jock it or anything. I'm saying it because there is a part of my brain that has this, like, wild autistic concept that if I just explain it enough, then psychically, the reality of the situation will sink into the brains of the insane people that I am looking at right now and get them to somehow realize, oh wait, maybe she actually was the person in the wrong. The worst part of it all is the fact that she didn't plead guilty from the first second in court. Yeah, and that's bizarre because she did admit, I'm pretty certain she admitted to doing it. Like, I'm fairly certain that when I first read reports of this happening, like, she was quite open about the fact that she was the one who did it. And yet she's not entered a guilty plea. And again, there's another world out there where she did this terrible thing, but then she pled guilty to it and was like, yes, I need to be punished for this because I did a horrible thing that my, as Newport has just said, that my chemically rewired brain made me do. I need to do something to compensate for this. Or, maybe after my back was broken, I should go the whole way and cut my wrists or something. She actually is trying to plead insanity right now. Yeah, they know full well that she's a killer and just don't care. Yeah, we'll get to that, trust me, because again, we are 2 tabs in and I have like 30 or 40. Let me check through the rest of them now. Give me 1 second, please. I also need to rest my voice for like 5 seconds because my voice is actually getting a bit rough. Oh yeah, this is another video from Colin Rugg, which is an inherently funny name, I will admit. Like, just call yourself Colin Rugg. I hope he doesn't call and rug pull anyone. Yeah, this is a 22-second clip, so I'll just mute my microphone and then play this. By the way, I'm Justin over on X, FYI. Oh, okay. Nice to see you, Justin. I see you liking my posts quite often. I don't recall if she went for the insanity defense at the start, but it was probably advised early on. And that's another reason why I despise defense lawyers. I mean, you need to have defense lawyers in a just society. There's no questioning that, but like at the same time. Yeah, this was one of the posts that, pardon me, that I used in the thumbnail. Female Lindsay Clancy supporter says it could be her who murders her own children. It could be me. Hundreds of women showed up at the courthouse today and gleefully cheered for the child murderer as she drove by. Bring back the asylums. Alright, let's play this.
One of my sister-in-laws, it could be one of my best friends, and it could be me. So just here to support.
We are hearing her. We see that she tried everything, and I really do believe that she went into a state of psychosis.
I feel like the system failed her.
She was begging for help, but no one was there. I don't know if us being here will make her feel any better, but I mean, she's living in hell right now. You know, one of my
It could be me. It could be me, so just here to support. We are hearing her. We see that she tried everything. This is another, like, lunatic level cope. MAGA make asylums great again. That should be on a t-shirt, okay? That's actually something that, when do you retract that? Oh, because you misspelled it, okay. Unironically, if someone wants to make a t-shirt that says MAGA make asylums great again, and then, like, give that out to people at one of these rallies for people on the opposite side to wear, I'd endorse that 100%. I'd buy one of those t-shirts, okay? Super duper. No excuses for anyone. Actions have consequences no matter the circumstance. 3 innocent children who had their whole lives ahead of them died. They do not hold life as sacred and deserve death. I mean, I'm not saying that these women necessarily deserve death, but they deserve a good beating anyway. I'm going to say that much. Yeah, Schmoll says she literally made the choice to keep hurting her children and making them suffer. No matter how much they cried, she kept going. That's not normal. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to do the whole can you imagine thing again, because that's too horrible even for me. But yeah, this is just an insane cope. From this woman especially, and this woman has, like, peak Karen energy. We feel like the system failed her. She was begging for help and no one was there. Again, this is absolute, like, rancid level cope, because she had multiple people in the house with her the entire time she was suffering postpartum depression. She was being treated actively for postpartum depression. I believe she was on medication for it as well. She had her grandmother, her husband, and I believe one other person in the house with her at all times, because they were fully aware that she was in a dangerous mental place. Now, the one thing that I will say that could be held against, like, the father and the caregivers is that, the husband went on paternity leave to take care of the family. I did not know that. Thank you for giving me that tidbit. Like, when I would say that on this basis, and we'll get to it later, but I also looked up several other cases of women with postpartum psychosis who also did similar things to this. And I would say that if your wife, to anyone who is lucky enough to have a wife and is unlucky enough for them to have postpartum psychosis, take their children away from them. Like, we have seen very directly what happens, what the potential is when a woman is in this mental state. She will kill her children. Or, well, no, that's wrong. She might kill her children. And she's going to be pretty methodical about it because, again, like, she strangled all 3 of them systematically, one after the other, while her caretakers were away. You do not want to have your children in the same house as someone who could decide to do that because chemicals in their brain are telling them to. So that would be my profound and urgent advice to anyone whose wife is dealing with this. Take her children away from her. Do not allow her to be with her children when she is in a state where she might decide to murder them if you go out for groceries. Okay? I'm sorry if that impinges on someone's rights or whatever. I don't care. Your first priority should not be the wife. It should be the children that she might murder. So that's the only thing that I suppose could technically be held against the husband. Because again, like I mentioned earlier, how we have this tendency to externalize evil as part of our natural psychology. Like, I can understand completely. You don't want to even entertain the idea that your wife or anyone else in your family could literally murder your own children. But I think we are at the point in society where enough of these cases have happened where it is not a risk you can be justified in taking. Like, if this happens again, and you're a decently internet savvy person, if you keep up with the news, if you do research, you have, and again, I'm not saying that this husband, he looks reasonably old. He's probably not the terminally online generation. And again, it's not something that I would encourage people to look into necessarily. Like, I think that people's innocence should be preserved. But at the same time, a rational person needs to take precautions against this kind of thing happening. And I view it as no different than if you're on a street with a load of migrants and you have young daughters, you are partially responsible if you don't make absolutely certain that your young daughters are not interacting with those migrants if they get raped and trafficked, as they have in England. And that's another insane thing about the whole grooming gang situation in England, is there are people out there who have been accused of all sorts of things, and some of them even been convicted of racism and offenses, simply because they did their due diligence and they made sure to keep their children out of harm's way. That they moved away from places that had large populations of migrants, or they simply forbade their children from interacting with migrants at school, etc. Those people have been condemned by society. They've been called horrible racists and evil people. But to me, that's perfectly sane. A core part of your parenting decision should be to keep very close eye on the kind of dangerous circumstances your children can be exposed to. I mean, I'm not a fan of helicopter parenting. I mean, I grew up looking at the way my parents treated me when I was a child. I frankly got into a hell of a lot of dangerous circumstances. Like, when I was a child, the first house that we lived in Ireland was, I mean, we've always lived in old, out-of-the-way farmhouses, but when I was 5 years old to 10 or so, we lived in a place that was quite remote. And I was a really wayward child. And I used to go out on my bike very often in the country roads. And my parents tell me that the trouble is I have a very poor memory of when I was a child. I sometimes joke that I didn't really become sapient until I hit my teenage years, because I feel a tremendous disconnect between myself as a child and myself as an adult. I really can't put myself back in the mindset that I had when I was that young. But I was off everywhere. I would spend 5 or 6 hours a day just away from my parents. And I think that I was extremely privileged and extremely lucky, because I think I was part of the last generation of children that could afford to have that kind of freedom. And I find it sad that I have very poor memory of those periods of my life, because there is no way in hell any children that I have will be able to safely possess that same level of freedom in their lives, simply because of how dangerous the world has become since then. But that's an adaptation that I will have to make if I'm ever blessed enough to have children of my own, and trust me, I'm going to try. I've still got a few years left in me before I find someone. Yeah, that was kind of a tangent. I'm sorry about that, but yeah. But in summary, as I said, you have to, as a parent in this world as it is today, be incredibly careful and cautious about the kind of things that your children are exposed to. And at this point, I think that a mother with postpartum depression, you can't let her have unfettered access to her own children until you are 100% certain that is all completely sorted out. Newport, that freedom still exists somewhere here in northern Canada, but I need more like-minded folks to move up here to help preserve it. I honestly wish you all the best. I hope that God blesses you in that endeavor, because we need spaces like that for children. We absolutely need places where children can still be free and still be able to explore their surroundings, explore nature, explore what it is like to be alive without being constantly protected from all the evil things out there. Also, Newport, here's my question about the husband jumping in the middle of this. How much actual warning did he have that she was off the deep end? I am not fully aware of that. I haven't done enough research into this whole situation to be certain about that. Mute your notes. Oh, are you getting notifications from Discord? Give me 1 second. I can't hear that on my current audio setup, but if that's interfering, let me just... now I'm trying to remember how to put streamer mode on. Give me 1 moment. I genuinely cannot remember how to activate streamer mode, I'm afraid. Sorry, I also need to rest my rest my voice for a second, so please give me a moment. I'll just disable all notification sounds for this second. Here we go. I'm more concerned about 4-legged predators up here than 2-legged, but again, that's changing too. Again, need more good people up here. Yep. I was counting those. I'm one of those people that has just Discord notifications on by default because I am not triggered by notification sound alerts. Although I did actually get a beep on my phone earlier, so we'll just have a look at that. That was just a notification from WhatsApp. Postpartum and I can't say that word. Facetious disorders can often go hand in hand, so he may have had no real idea just how serious all this was. I'm burning off this stream's anger by stacking wood. Typing gives me much needed breaks. Hey, that's good. I'm glad you're able to get some physical exercise in. That's another thing that streams are great for. I love listening to streams while working out. Plus, it's a bit of a flex to like keep track of your reps by posting in the streamer's chat about how much you just did. Let me have a sip of water. Well, sip of my tea. Right. Let me look at my tabs again. That's another crowd of female protesters. Oh yeah, I will get to that particular tab in a minute. Let me just put that right over there so I know about it. Oh yeah, this was a good one from a guy that I encourage people to follow. Like, this is Rob Henderson. He is a very good guy. I like his content an awful lot. He is genuinely one of my inspirations for streaming and the way that I post on Twitter, because he likes to do this a lot, where he also is a fan of Thomas Sowell, who is also one of my inspirations, because Thomas Sowell is a fantastic guy. And he posted about this case, this excerpt from one of Thomas Sowell's books. Unfortunately, he does not give the source, which is mildly annoying. The media can even build up sympathy for murderers by interviewing their mothers or wives who proclaim their innocence, or fellow criminals who give them an alibi by saying they were somewhere else when the crime was committed. Just the sight of a forlorn man on death row can be touching. The media cannot show that same man when he is exulting in the savagery of the crime that brought him there, cannot show his sadistic joy when he was raping or torturing a little girl who was tearfully pleading for her life. If they could show that on television, many of those people who gather outside prison to protest his execution might instead be volunteering to pull the switch. And this is also a video from Boston 25 News, which I will just play here. A sea of Lindsay Clancy supporters dressed in pink gathered outside Plymouth Superior Court Thursday morning as the Duxby mother's murder trial nears a pivotal point. Let's have a look at these wonderful examples of humanity, which will not increase your hatred of women in any capacity whatsoever.
What is it about this case? What is that?
What flags are those? Is that like the Norwegian flag? And I think that's some kind of Asian flag. Some of these people have literally crossed the continent or have flown in from Europe. Oh, God, I hate European women so much. They're even worse than American women, I swear. Apologies to the several European VTubers that I follow and have rather pleasant interactions with. You are the exception to the rule. She doesn't look Japanese. Yeah, I noticed. Anyway, let's continue. I'm fairly sure that that flag right there is not a flag from a country where you would be able to wear that kind of outfit in public, shall we say. Oh my God, I'm pretty certain this one, green, white, and orange, is the Irish flag. Ugh. There's people from Ireland here as well. I hate women more every nanosecond.
Well, the lady that organized it, she handed out flags, and all these flags are representing support from different countries around the world that are watching this. Everybody's trying to learn from it, and they're showing their support in women's health care. And Kevin.
Yeah, as they said, if you probably couldn't hear that because the audio was very low, but they were saying these are women from all around the world who have shown up to give their support. And like back here, yeah. There we go. Like that's a child. That girl is probably like 11 or 12, although I'm terrible with ages, especially for women. The indoctrination starts very young. I remember I was talking to my best friend, the economist guy from earlier, who's talk about the vampires and their fledglings. I've had, like, he's single. He's a few years younger than me, and unlike me, he is very much single and not looking. And I have spoken to him on numerous occasions about his celibacy, because I remember he had a girlfriend who was astonishingly hot and attractive in, like, high school, and that relationship ended because, as I recall, she got really mad at a bully in school and wore her father's combat boots to school, attacked him, beat him up, knocked him to the ground, jumped on his neck, and killed him with her combat boots because she shattered his neck. And so she ended up in prison for a very long time. And can I get a based in chat for that? So yeah, he very much knows how to pick 'em. He very, very much knows how to pick 'em. But yeah, ever since then, he's pretty much been single. And I've asked him, like, Alex, my friend, my dear and beloved friend, I think you would make a wonderful father. Why have you not decided, now you're in your late 20s and are, like, a genius-level economist who could very easily support a family? Why have you not married a woman and, like, started to have children? And he has gone on at length to me, and he's basically said a lot of things, but one of the things that I recall is he said, I don't like the idea of, like, marrying a woman who is going to have a tremendous amount of influence in my child's upbringing and being constantly worried about the kind of insane self-destructive things she might teach my children, that then in later life I'm going to have to face the consequences of and try and be like a mediating force against. He's also told me that I should literally just go to a college and find some young woman who is like 18 or so. And he said to me, he's Slavic, by the way, just FYI, very much a Slavic outlook in life that has been repeated to me by several other Slavs. He has said, what you need to do in order to get, like Proctor, in order to get the perfect wife, you just need to find some young, really innocent college girl from like a really remote, out of the way area, and you need to groom her into your mindset before the world can corrupt her. That's how you get a good wife. And, at the time, I was like, that sounds really weird. I don't want to do that. That feels really manipulative, and I wouldn't be comfortable doing that. Nowadays, I think he might have had a point. I think he might be onto something. Again, anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, but I've got to be honest. After the kind of things that I have seen from the whole female empowerment movement, I very much think that there is a time and a place for making yourself the only source of philosophical input that a woman has in her life, and making sure that you get to her before the world gets to her. Because on the balance of forces, I think that I'd be better for her than the world would be. Should put it that way. Because this is the kind of thing that you have to endure when you're out in the world. The kind of madness that feminist ideology puts in women's head. And once it's in, as we have seen, once you have embraced the kind of mindset that encourages you to go and show feminine support for a woman who murdered 3 of her children, that unironically makes you go, oh, it was definitely the husband who did it. No woman would ever do that. I don't think you can really feasibly be deprogrammed from that kind of mindset. Like, once you have drunk the Kool-Aid that far, that deep, that heavily, how do you pull yourself out? Like, I try and compare these kind of things to experiences in my own life. Like, I'm a Christian. I'm a very devout Christian, especially after all the things that I see in the world that has given up God. And, like, I try and think, if I were to become like an atheist, for example, what level of mental reprogramming would it require for me to go from the very Christian person that I am right now to being a hardcore, there is no God, it's a flying spaghetti monster at most, stop praying to that ridiculous sky daddy kind of level atheism? I think that kind of mindset switch would be about as dramatic and aggressive as would be needed to take a woman from this crowd of people right now and try and reprogram them into a functional, I don't like to use the term like tradcath or like traditional wife, but to make them into something sane. I think it would be that level of mental rewiring needed. Only for Yes, unfortunately, Thrang is now busy in life, so he is no longer by my side as persistently as he once was, which is a great tragedy and is something that I have not been able to take advantage of in a while. Also, someone just sent me a DM on Discord that was about this. This is probably not good for the stream itself, but here's an article on a similar serial child murderer case which discusses the perpetrator's diagnosis with Mancusen's by proxy, which I am very familiar with. Kiwi Farms has a tremendous thread on women with Mancusen's by proxy. I believe that Mancusen syndrome was also something theorized that Jason Arde, that black didn't do nothing who killed himself over his entire academic career being exposed as a bunch of insane lies, had. Because Jason Arde people were pointing out that there is a very distinct theme through all of the claims that he made in academia, where basically all of the accomplishments that he had were after a massive amount of like personal trauma and harm. Like he claimed to be nonverbal until he was like 11 years old. He claimed to be autistic. He claimed to have a brain tumor. He claimed to have broken his leg multiple times while doing his marathons. He claimed to have been suffering from various other like severe physical disorders while he was at Cambridge and all these kind of things. And a lot of people were saying like, this is a classic case of Mancuson syndrome. It wasn't even about the academic career that he had himself. It was, he always focused on the fact that he was ill, he was sick, he was like horribly disabled throughout all of it. And I think that's a very good example of Mancuson syndrome. And it's another, I don't think it's a fictitious disease, but it is very much one of those things that I don't think you can really cure or do anything about. See, that's another thing that an awful lot of these cases have kind of made me believe strongly, because in the last couple of months, I've also been listening to a whole bunch of, and I say listen because I prefer audiobook format, especially when I'm working. It's a great replacement for streams because it actually gets me some knowledge instead of women screaming in my head while I'm polishing a roof. I've listened to an awful lot of audiobooks by psychiatrists analyzing the mental system. And it's really funny because it gives you also a very good insight into the kind of mindset that psychologists and psychotherapists have when it comes to dealing with these kinds of people. And what very much disturbs me a great deal of the time is that a lot of these psychologists will talk in great detail about the level of suffering that people with psychosis have, which is real, which is true. Like if you are a schizophrenic, or if you suffer from any other level of mental disorder, I mean, I suffer from mental disorders. Like I have ADHD, and trust me, ADHD is not a fun condition to have, especially if you go 2 years without your medication because the doctors randomly decide to cut you off from it. That was fun. That was another reason why I didn't stream for a very long time, because untreated ADHD is genuine hell to endure. But yeah, psychotherapists are very empathetic people. You have to be very empathetic to be a psychotherapist. But what struck me listening to like 3 or 4 different biographies of psychotherapists and analysis of the psychiatric system is that these psychotherapists have what I would describe as a very narrow case of empathy. And I'm sure most people here will be familiar with the term suicidal empathy. And just for a brief overview, like suicidal empathy is the idea that some people are so empathetic that they actively choose the well-being of people that are dangerous in their lives over their own. And they make decisions that cloud the reality of the danger these people pose to their own lives. Like we see a lot with immigration, is that, oh, just let thousands and thousands, millions of entirely undocumented illegal people into your country out of suicidal empathy because, oh, they're from dangerous places. They're not responsible for their own situation. Like, we should give them lots of free stuff and endless indulgence, while also ignoring the fact that they have a disproportionately high likelihood to be rapists, murderers, child molesters, etc. That's a good case of suicidal empathy. And psychotherapists display suicidal empathy to a frightening degree, because I can think of at least 10 examples in these books that I was listening to where psychotherapists were describing cases of, for example, paranoid schizophrenia, where... Okay, that didn't terrify you quite as much. Hello, I think it's Koloth. Thank you very much for joining the asylum. I really appreciate it. But yeah, where these psychotherapists described people with paranoid schizophrenia who were obviously suffering very, very badly. Like, these were people that had constant terrifying delusions that left them with severe psychic pain, basically. I think that alert is one of my roosters crowing, actually, that I recorded. And they constantly talked about how aggressive the police were with these people when they were there, because these were not people in psychiatric institutions. These were people that were in the public that had paranoid schizophrenia, often who had a very inconsistent habit of taking their medications. And the focus of the analysis of their cases by these psychotherapists was always the harm that these paranoid schizophrenics were suffering from their continued aggressive interactions with law enforcement. Because, of course, what would happen is they would forget to take their medication, or they would deliberately stop taking their medication, and they would have a paranoid schizophrenic episode, and they would run outside, and they would start screaming at walls, or they would start attacking people. Many of them were violent offenders with long criminal records. And then they would get assaulted by the police, they would get tasered, they would get tear gassed, they would get jumped by 4 police officers at once. And the therapeutic angle was, oh, these people, the trauma and the agony and the unpleasantness they must suffer from these violent encounters with law enforcement. In not one single case did I see any of these therapists say, oh, how tragic and how awful it must be to be an innocent person who is violently accosted by a paranoid schizophrenic in the street that results in a violent altercation that law enforcement have to come and pepper spray and taser and pin the dude down, who is screaming and fighting and clawing and spitting and biting. And it's it's incredibly frustrating to listen to these people who are fully aware of how dangerous these psychotic people are to the public, and yet their focus is 100% on their suffering and their misery and their pain and their anguish, instead of spending even a minute of introspecting what the public suffers from to have these people walking around undergoing psychotic episodes and randomly assaulting people. I think the worst case was typically a black guy who was a paranoid schizophrenic, who was also something like 380 pounds. 380 pounds and 6'6", which is as tall as my brother, mind you. So you've got a 380 pound, 6'6" paranoid schizophrenic black guy, a veritable cornucopia, a cauldron of destructive energy. And the psychotherapist was talking about, oh, this guy and all of his relatives, his loving family, who is always there for him to protect him and shield him. They all call him the quintessential gentle giant. That's a phrase. When I hear the phrase gentle giant, there's a part of my brain that just starts screaming very loudly. And he was saying, oh, this guy he's been held down by law enforcement. He's terrified of police for some reason. He's terrified of the evil racist police, which keep tasering him, which he's had 4 or 5 arrests where he's been body slammed by 4 or 5 police officers at once. And he's been hauled into a squad car and he's been thrown in jail for 72 hours without his medication and with no help because he's been psychotic and they don't know how to deal with him. And I'm just dude, my guy. This is an incredibly dangerous individual. He is several hundred pounds of pure muscle and adrenaline and rage that you are sympathizing with as he goes around the streets violently assaulting people and getting taken down by law enforcement. This is not someone we should be tolerating on the streets in a polite society. Look, I am okay with the idea that this guy is not in control of his own actions, okay? I have sympathy for him being a prisoner of his own mind that has to endure these kinds of things. Okay, I have empathy for that. What I do not have is sympathy for a system which consistently looks at these kinds of people and goes, "Ah, what poor, delicate, innocent souls that are pure victims of their circumstances. We need to endlessly indulge them and make sure they are endlessly babied and coddled and given the best treatment possible for their continued violent actions towards society." No, put them away. Reopen the asylums. Make a walled garden with these people on one side and functional society on the other. Because we are not doing ourselves any favors. We are not creating a better society by endlessly empathizing with these kinds of people. Sorry, give me 1 second. I need to readjust my chair. It's like they treat these people with a higher priority than the soon-to-be victims of their actions. Yes, that is exactly how the system works. And what is worse is that the people in this system sincerely and earnestly believe that they are doing the right thing. Like, quite a few of these books were narrated by their authors. Quite a few of those authors had rather indicative last names, shall we say. And so I got to listen to these people in their own words, in their own voice, describing with like the low tone. They go into the low tone. They were talking about this poor man. He has been a paranoid schizophrenic for 10 years. He has been abused and he has been beaten. His rights have been violated. He has suffered so much, and we have tried to help him. But the system is evil. We live in a broken society that thinks it is okay to assault and violate a poor person who is trapped inside their own head, undergoing a horrifying experience that we can't comprehend. And it's like, I don't care. Your feeling, I understand your feelings of sorrow, but you're not thinking of the people that are being hurt by this man, by this hunk of meat that is a violent danger to the rest of society. Sorry, give me a drink of water. And you have to, like, I say these kinds of things because it's very easy as a more sane individual, shall we say, a more externalized individual, perhaps, to look at cases like this and like women like this who are cheering for a murderer and being like, oh, they're kind of silly, they're stupid, they don't know what they're saying. You know, it's funny, it's tragic, but it's also funny. There's schadenfreude to be had. And yeah, it's funny in that respect. But you also have to realize that as crazy as these people come across, they do have a very well-established theory of mind. They have a purpose to their actions, and they have a developed mindset for the things that they are doing. And you see the sound bites of them going crazy and yelling at people that argue with them, and yet, but that is the result of their beliefs being challenged in an adversarial system. When they are on their own, when they are moving among their own people, they will have like very detailed and high order conversations about why they are right and why you are wrong, and why you are an evil person for suggesting they have a different outlook in life. And I believe that's also like literally been proven by science, is that it's much easier for people like us to understand the perspectives of people like this than it is for them to understand our perspectives. And I think that any degree of actualizing yourself, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, so I'm sorry if my words are a bit convoluted and a bit autistic. If you are going to affect this system in any tangible way yourself, you have to get past the idea that these are just crazy people doing irrational things, because that's not true. They have a very highly developed and orderly internal logic to their actions. And that internal logic is incredibly destructive and dangerous. And by treating them as idiots, you are devaluing the level of agency and the level of willpower that they have to push this idea onto as many people as possible. Like these women right here that we're looking at right now, There are hundreds, possibly thousands of women that are out here doing this. They are going to be raising their children and teaching them the things that they are doing right now. They are going to be doing their absolute best to indoctrinate every person they come across with their own mindset and spread it like a virus. And if you aren't able to meet them on their level, they will defeat you every single time. And you will be reduced to, well, basically what I'm doing right now. You're going to end up as the guy who sits alone in his fortified little castle, laughing at all the people outside that are busy destroying everything you have ever loved and cherished in your entire life. And it's not an easy thing to do. You need to have a very strong grounding in your own principles and your own ideas and your own way of looking at the world in order to fight any of this. And, like, I think that I'm pretty decent at that myself. Like, I try my best to live my ideals in my life, and I try and impress them upon other people. But we've lost a great deal of ground already. And it's a very, very uphill battle. And let me just go back to the comments for a second. It's like they treat these people with a higher priority. I already read that. I challenge the concept of they aren't thinking of the victims. I argue they are and privately get off on it. I mean, that definitely does happen. Like, there are people out there that are actively rejoicing at these kinds of things. And let me just go back to my thing here, because this, we've been through a bit of a miserable thing right now, but there was something else that I'm going to get onto, because we're coming up to the 3-hour mark. We're at 2 hours, 40 minutes. I can probably go for like 3.5 hours. But after that, my voice will definitely start giving out. But there was this, like, we've already covered a whole load of horrible nonsense and bullshit. But there is something else. Because you might remember, those who've been on the stream, that somebody mentioned abortion earlier. And there was something that came across my feed, which I think is a great example of that. So we're going to transition from this, away from this wonderful, wonderful topic of murderous rage towards children, and then move on to the topic of abortion, because, you know, that's going to be really great for us, isn't it? See if I can bloody find it again. Oh yeah, I lost it after I specifically put it in a place on my screen where I would be able to look back at it. That was great. That was a great idea. Okay. Again, like, if people want to stop watching at this point, I genuinely do not blame you. We are going into the nastiest part yet. Here we are. This is a post by a real Carola to Hope. I'm literally crying. This is the most horrific video from a pregnant woman I've ever seen. I'm not even exaggerating. She's talking about a late-term abortion she's having that day at 26 weeks. Just listen. And I am going to make you listen to this because I hate you.
I'm booked in for my termination this morning. I feel like I am at peace with my decision, with our decision as a family. As privileged as I am, I didn't know how late-term terminations work. You lay on a bed, awake, and they have doctors and midwives in the room. Under ultrasound, a needle into the baby's heart and inject it to stop it from beating. And then you slowly feel all the movements stop from a baby, no more kicks. Get sent home for another 24 hours, back up to the hospital, and they induce you vaginally give birth to a sleeping baby. Nathan's at work at the moment. I've got to get Betty up and do her morning routine before taking her to school. I'm okay, Barbie boy. It'll be okay.
I actually had not watched this video beforehand. I think the dog, seeing the dog there, who was that guy? Who's the legendary guy who was caught, like, gambling on CSGO or something? And he made that apology video where he, like, hugged his dog and everything. Because that image, the image of him, like, hugging his dog, just came into my mind with a burning passion when I saw that little part of the video. Yeah, I forgot his name too. I'm sorry. But yeah, anyway, let's continue with this delightful topic.
Things were different. Just need to let it out before I wake Betty up. I'm not afraid of showing my emotions in front of her, but I just want her to know that it's going to be okay too. I lost my mum when I was in grade 6, so it's entirely different, but death wasn't spoken about a lot. And I want to be honest with her because she deserves it. After the appointment to stop baby's heart, we go to a midwife appointment to talk about one in our birth experience and what we want done with our baby in terms of cremations, burials, funerals. We'll get a birth certificate and a death certificate. I can't believe it.
Baby sister's gonna go live in the clouds today with Nanny Sandy. Okay? I love you too, baby. Ma. Cuddle?
Yep. I'm just going to leave this image here, like, on the screen. That's just vile. Yeah, this woman is killing her baby at 26 weeks. Now, I do want to mention a little detail, is that she's not getting an abortion purely to, like, yeetus that fetus. Apparently, her baby does have... It was diagnosed with several defects that may make it potentially incompatible with life. So I will just say that I don't want to say I understand, because again, I'm a Christian. I'm against abortion in basically all categories, but like at the absolute very least, she's not like murdering a completely healthy baby. There is a chance that this child might just be born incompatible with life. But the thing is, again, like, my mother had me when she was in her very early 40s, and doctors told her that there was a chance that I could be born with severe birth defects, because obviously a late pregnancy, those chances go up. I mean, she's not in her late 40s, you can tell. And they also advised that she potentially consider an abortion. And she said no, because, you know, Christian as well. She said, I don't care if my baby comes out really bad. I'll take care of it as best that I can. And obviously, you know, she made a terrible mistake, and I am now here and vomiting my word salad towards you with my incredible retardation. So I think we can all agree that there is, you know, she should definitely have yeetus that fetus. But it's like, again, I can't really put into words what I'm feeling at the moment when I watch something like this. I mean, for one thing, like ultrasounds and other procedures like this have a fairly reliable rate of being inaccurate. I'm not sure if you can use that phrasing, like reliably inaccurate. I'm 45 and I'm still wanting to start a family, but if the baby is going to be a wreck, well, I mean, that's the thing, is that if you give birth to a child that is incompatible with life, that's very sad and very unfortunate. But I think there's something here that is quite telling. Let me just see if I can find it. Terminal... We'll get a birth certificate and a death certificate. That was a very interesting point, because an awful lot of people are go like, oh, it's just a fetus, it's not alive yet, it's not a person yet. You don't issue death certificates for inanimate objects. Like, that baby is old enough to be considered alive by every measurable standard. And she's decided to kill it. And she's also decided to make a TikTok video about it. about her suffering, about her misery, about her pain, etc. Which, you know, on one level I can understand. Like, it's gonna be really awful. Super duper, better to try and have it end bad than to not try at all. What happens happens, as long as you give life a chance. Making that choice for the child is not right, in my opinion. Exactly. I think you've summed it up very accurately there. I think we have reached a very dangerous and destructive time in society where, that's one thing. When I have spoken to women very consistently, I get the reply that doctors don't take them seriously. The vast majority of women that I've spoken to, this includes like people my mother's age, in their 70s, women that are in their 50s, 40s, 30s, normal women, and also a lot of VTubers. Like, look at VTubers online, look at how many health issues that they suffer from, and it's very consistent that they say that doctors don't take me seriously, or that I was advised to get so-and-so procedure by a doctor, or my health condition was ignored by doctors for a very long time. I don't trust doctors any longer. That is a consistent experience that many women have with doctors. And I would completely agree with them. I think that it is a serious problem within the medical profession that doctors, both men and women, mind you, this is not a gender thing, like male and female doctors will dismiss women's concerns about their health. I find it utterly incomprehensible and reprehensible that a woman would trust a doctor with their consistent pattern of not just failing to adequately diagnose women, but also failing to adequately diagnose like in vitro conditions, that a woman is trusting someone that they should kill their 26-week-old child instead of, at the very least, taking a chance that it might come out maybe with treatable conditions that could be survivable. As like Mastern1825 just said, I remember reading this post by a former Harlequin baby who was born with a horrible skin condition and suffered so much in her childhood, yet she beat the odds and is doing fine as an adult. Yeah. And I mean, as someone who suffers from a mental disorder, I have been part of multiple programs throughout my early childhood and teenage years where myself and other much more seriously mentally and physically disabled people than myself went through the system, as it were. And I've known people, I'm not sure what it is, I think it's multiple sclerosis, or what's the other one? There's another one, and the name has gone completely out of my head, but basically, I think it's Parkinson's or something like that, where people are basically have a nervous system problem, which makes them constantly twitch, shudder. They have very low like self-control, basically. Parkinson's is the shakes, yeah. I remember a woman in one of these programs who was basically born with Parkinson's disease, and she was very severely physically disabled, like disabled to the point where she was permanently in a wheelchair. She technically was not paralyzed, but her body was basically not under her own control. She could barely speak. Like, she smoke, like this all the time. So yeah, that was pretty horrible. I remember being very scared of her as a child because of that voice condition. Here's the thing. She had an IQ of like 135. She was a genius, an incredibly intelligent woman. And the last I'm aware, she's a practicing academic of some fairly high ALS. Yeah, I think it is ALS. Yeah, I forget what that stands for, but you've triggered the memory. That's what she had. You did not have to replicate that voice tick that perfectly, bro. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But yeah, that's what she sounded like. But she is now a practicing academic, operating at a fairly high level in her field, while also having that incredibly crippling condition. And that was something that was diagnosed in the womb. That was obvious from like the first ultrasound that she had that incredibly serious physical disability. And yet her parents, again, they chose to bring her to term. And that life would not exist unless that woman, as in that academic career, would not exist if that baby had been aborted in the womb. And I think a major part of civilization as a whole is a defining part of a functional, operating civilization is that it gives the opportunity for people that experience severe, life-threatening disabilities to lead functional, productive, contributive lives within that civilization. But we are seeing today that people are going backwards. And in fact, again, ironically, it's the liberal kind of viewpoint. Again, who is most in favor of abortion and things like that? It's, the liberals. Conservatives generally are anti-abortion. And yet the liberal demographic that has been enabled by this high functional civilization that we have created are the ones that are now pushing us back to a state where all of the benefits of that civilization that should be afforded to the disabled, the damaged, the suffering, are being forbidden them. Look at Canada, for example, and its insane euthanasia laws, where people are literally being killed for being too poor. Like, that is an actual thing. I think the number of, and this was like a year or so ago, it's probably even higher now, that euthanasia is one of the top 5 leading causes of death in Canadian society at the moment. Like, I think it's the 5th, last time I checked, in like 2025. And so, in our great civilization, where we are objectively living in an era of peace and prosperity, yes, even now, right now, with all of the nonsense going around in places like Iran and the economy and whatever, we are living in an era of bounty and prosperity that our grandparents could not even imagine. And yet in that era of bounty and prosperity, we are killing more people that could take advantage of that bounty and prosperity than we were 100 years ago. So much for that free healthcare in Canada, huh? It's because of the free healthcare they're killing people so much, because they don't want to take on the additional government debt. Canada has gone off the deep end. Oh yeah, I know several people who live in Canada, and I wish them all the best, because they are going to need it. They are going to need an awful lot of divine intervention to save their civilization at this point. And I can see England and Ireland going the same way, because they've all got euthanasia laws either on their books already, or they are going through their parliaments at the moment. And I'm just like, you're going backwards, mates. You are going backwards. Anyway, after that wonderful little piece, let me look through their tab. Let me look through the tabs now for anything else that I want to view, because I am very much running out of steam by now. I don't think I'll go to 3 hours and 3.5 hours. I think I'll end things fairly soon at this point. I might do a follow-up stream about this again, because there's plenty more stuff that I could cover. Good God, that'd be such a wonderful thing to do. Yeah, I think this post that I saw as well is Yukon is in Northwest Canada. Yeah, I knew you were in Canada, but I just didn't really think to mention you when I talked about Canada. Gigadramon 6, short version is that this is a modern expression and evolution of the cult of Dionysus. I could not agree more. The cult of Dionysus is quite fascinating to look into. Mark Anthony was an interesting case of that. But yeah, there's this from Peachy Keenan on Twitter, where she says, "Why are so many women so angry? They won. They got everything they wanted. Men have never been doing this badly, and women have never been doing this well. They make more. They have the majority of jobs. They are the majority of college candidates. UCLA undergrad is 60% female. They make more money, have much lower rates of suicide, addiction, and alcoholism, and live longer. They won. They took over all men-only spaces. They took over the Boy Scouts. They ended men's bathrooms. They can fly fighter planes and be in combat. Marriage is optional. Divorce is no fault. They win 99% of the custody battles. They can control fertility at will, and they can't get drafted. We are all living in the female future they promised." So cheer up, ladies, and please, for the love of God, do not hurt your children. Gigadramon 6, why are women so angry? Because they didn't want to win. They wanted an authority figure to tell them what the rules are. That's another very good point. Super duper, this was a great return stream, decently long and with substance, no need to push yourself. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm glad that people have enjoyed, quote unquote, this stream, because it has been very miserable for me to go through. Like, at the start, it was quite happy, because it was like, yeah, talk about stuff that I've been doing in the past, that's great, and then get on to this. What a lovely, lovely thing. Anyway, I think that overall, that kind of covers everything that I wanted to cover. Well, I didn't want to cover, really. But, again, it's nice to be like, there's a topic that I really want to discuss, and I'm glad that people overall are appreciative of the kind of things that I want to talk about. I would like to get back into streaming, at least on a semi-regular basis, over the next couple of months. Probably not immediately, because I do have a Vexpo coming up, and that's going to be quite a big thing in September. I have quite a lot of stuff to prepare for that, quite a few plans to prepare and lay out. Hopefully some people will get back to me about that. And yeah, I really hope that that all goes well. There was also one other thing that I wanted to bring up before I end the stream, however, so don't run away right away. Allow me to just get it up on the screen right now. I'll have to watch the VOD. I've been running errands. I'm having a good birthday aside from having to renew my car registration. Speaking of Vexpo, that'll be the first convention I'll attend. Hey, cool. Are you in the UK or are you somewhere else? Give me one moment, please. I have to get this up on my screen. And I have to log in. That's very annoying. Give me 1 second. I have to get my credentials and everything. This isn't gonna... No, good grief. And the last thing I want to do is accidentally dox my key pass on stream. Although, I mean, it wouldn't really matter too much because you can't even see my... you can't see my password anyway. Log in. No, I do not want to save my password on Brave Manager. Yeah, there was a little thing that we have created. Actually, let me just move my PNG over so you can actually see what I'm about to show you. Yeah, people on TVA may have seen this already. This lovely little thing here. This rather charming little chibi figure. The world is not what even the women wanted as a whole. Yeah, I agree. It's almost like women have absolutely no idea of the consequences of their own actions. I'm in the UK, yeah, it's not that far. I'm glad for you. It's going to be a great time. I unfortunately have to take a plane over to... Actually, no, it's not. I tell a lie. It is not unfortunate that I live a landmass away from the UK. I would not move back to the UK for any amount of money. I'm sorry. Like, Ireland is getting worse. Britain... Holy shit, man. Britain is terrifying at the moment. I have no desire to go there for any reason. Yeah, so this charming little thing, this lovely little chibi that was made by Mekins, is part of my new little plan to extract money from the plebs. Okay? And how it works is going to be fairly simple. I have someone who has kindly offered to create these cute little chibi figures of various VTubers. You should come to California. I would rather kill myself than go to California. Thank you very much. Yeah, they have agreed to make these sweet little chibi things, and this is like a test run of it. And basically, the idea is, if people pay me money, I will get one of these things commissioned, and I will then feature it on the website for a set amount of time based on the amount that you pay me. And also, if you do not like what the current chibi is, because I can't imagine many people are completely delighted to see Anya giggling at them as they view the forum, you can pay to make it go away. This is my method of torturing you. because after, 4 years running this website, I need to get my kicks somehow. And I've often thought, what would be the most efficient way to torment the people on my forum while also making money? And I thought, a great way to do it is to put up little chibis of various VTubers that people might take offense to. I love seeing the VTuber that bullied my Oshi on the homepage. I hate you, Super Duper, and I hope your Oshi graduates. You're welcome up here in the Great White-ish North, mate. Yeah, the North is still okay in general, somewhat. I have relatives in the North, and they say that it's not too bad up there yet, but it's getting worse, and Scotland is absolutely bloody terrifying. Like, the stuff that's going on in Scotland is... It's more funny than an Anya stream. God, I tried to listen to a few minutes of the Anya stream yesterday, and she sounded like she was very high, man. Like, she was being completely drowned out by the other people on the stream. I think someone in the thread said that this was a great advertisement for the other people in the group because she was barely there. And when she talked, it was like this really low, dull monotone, and you could barely understand what she was saying. Like, there is something seriously wrong with that woman. She sounds like she has lethargy. Yep, she very much does. She sounds depressed and checked out and like she doesn't want to be there. And I won't go into that. I think that like anything that I could say about Anya has probably already been said by Armchair Experts stream, which he did on her recently, which is a fantastic stream, which I highly encourage people to go and check out if they want to have an overview of the Anya Nyabis, aka Nyanya Bian. I can't even say her bloody name. Nanya Banyanya, I think. Okay, we'll go with that. I'm just going to call her Anya because Nyanya is a bloody hard and awkward name for me to say, especially 3 hours into stream. So yeah, Anya. He's already said pretty much everything about Anya that I could possibly say. So yeah, in the next day or two, I am going to be releasing an announcement clarifying the rules around these cute little things. Now, this is just a very basic thing at the moment. It's just a basic HTML template with the image and the caption. In future, what I would really like to do is get little... You can see all these elements here, like the asylum, the PA system, the like the icons for each of the forums. What I thought would be a really adorable and maybe traumatizing thing for some people would be to commission like chibified UI elements for TVA. I got to look into this on the test server that I get around to messing around with recently. The recent dust-up between the drama mongers, any comments? You would have to say specifically which drama mongers, because as far as I'm concerned, they're always in a dust-up, and there's like 20 or 30 different things going on between them at all times, to the point I've literally stopped caring about the majority of it. The only good contribution Anya had was her stream OST. Nyabis, thank you. But yeah, as I was saying, I think it would be cute to commission like little chibi UI elements to festoon around TVA. The only problem with that is that some UI elements do not translate very well to mobile, but honestly, I think that mobile users should die in a fire. I hate mobile users of TVA. I never use TVA on mobile, and I cannot imagine why anyone would want to browse a forum or post on a forum on a mobile platform. You are disgusting and sick, and I think you are objectively an inferior form of life. But yeah, if you had like, one thing is, imagine like Anya peeking up over the asylum board when you go to look at it, or if you go to like the dining hall or something, there's her staring at you, or if you go to post, another cute thing is, if you go to post in any thread, if you had like Anya staring at you from the reply button or something, and you had to pay money to make her go away or replace her with a better VTuber. I think that would be a great idea. I think I could make money off that. Phone posters are toilet posters. I quite agree. They're posting from the inside of the toilet as we speak. They are literally the dingleberries and the fecal matter like congealing together into a sapient organism that posts on the phone left next to the toilet. Like, that is my opinion of phone posters and toilet posters in general. But yeah, that's pretty much covers all that I had to say about... well, it doesn't cover all that I had to say. I could probably rant for another 6 hours, but yeah, my throat is starting to hurt a bit. So I am going to slide back into this whole thing, and also remember to move my avatar over back to the corner. So a literal shit poster. Yep, I think that characterizes quite a lot of VTuber watchers at the moment, honestly. That reminds me, that's another thing. That fun little tweet that I put out, which also went surprisingly viral, about the burnt peanut. About 2 hours after I posted the burnt peanut tweet about how the burnt peanut may objectively be a better VTuber than the majority of other VTubers now, simply because he produces less flesh content than most of the other VTubers in the top 10 on Twitch, which I find eternally hilarious. Someone sent me a clip of Iron Mouse contemplating a face reveal. Petition to make Nyara the featured VTuber. Super duper. I wish to congratulate you on managing to make me speechless. Like, that was... I can't... I genuinely do not know how to respond to that. I'm not sure. I'm reminded of that Iron Maiden song, The Thin Line Between Love and Hate, where they say there's a thin line drawn between being a genius or insane. I think you are straddling that line right now, Super Duper. I can't tell if that idea is pure insanity or unbelievable genius. No, we are not doing Marina VT, okay? I have standards. There are some things that even I will not do, okay? Some people thrive on a negative attention and are better not touched without necessity. I mean, I did have a bint up on TVA for like several months, but I mean that wasn't a negative context. So I don't really care too much about that. But I mean, the idea of Marina VT staring at me it's supposed to get other people to donate. You're not supposed to be giving me ideas that would make me donate to my own site to make something go away, okay? I'll take the bro. Oh, good grief. You people are horrible. Sometimes I think to myself, I'm a really nasty person. I've thought up something really horrible to do to people, and then I mention it in chat, and there's immediately like 3 people that go, yeah, I can think of something even worse. Like, that's scary. I remember like Arthur Wellesley, like the Duke of Wellington, talking about his army and talking about how his army is a bunch of thieves and whores, and they terrify him. I think that I feel that way about TVA right now, okay? Like, you people scare me at times. You people really, really scare me. And I'm not sure I'm okay with that. Right, anyway, my throat is now very much tired out. I am exhausted. I need something to eat. I feel worn out. So I am going to end stream here. Alucard is my spirit guide. You're welcome for the evil. Oh, dear. Let me remember how I actually end stream. Ah, yes. This is how you do it. So, yes, thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate you all coming back to listen to my unhinged ramblings. I sincerely hope you have a better day than I have just had for the last 3 hours talking about insane women who believe insane things. And yeah, I think my next stream might be covering more about this case, or it might be about AI, because, yeah, some of my tweets about AI recently have gotten pretty large amounts of attention. The whole Kara situation is kind of insane. Did you know that scraping a website's public URLs is literally an act of rape, according to artists on Twitter? Because, yeah, if you send an AI bot to an artist's website, you are committing rape, according to them. Like, rape, the special kind of rape where you use an asterisk over the A. Like, that level of rape, alright? I was not aware of this, but it is rather interesting. Again, it's one of those topics where you dig into it and you realize exactly how mad people really are. If people knew what I did with their VTuber models, I think they don't want to know, Azahara. I'm fully convinced that most anti-AI stuff is entirely performative. Oh yeah, it is. Like, digging into it, ooh. Do you have a lot of scrapers on your website? I mean, the scrapers are basically why I have the CAPTCHA on my website, the whole, like, verifying you are not a bot thing, because we got so many scrapers at one point that it overloaded the database and crashed the server. So I just have that on now. I'm sorry if it bothers some people, but it genuinely does make the site infinitely more usable and efficient. But yeah, before I get tangenting onto AI, I am going to end stream and go and get something to drink and something to eat. Gained 100 new rape convictions. Only 100? Those are rookie numbers. We can get way higher numbers than that. Alright guys, thank you very much for your time. I am going to bid you all a fond farewell and a good night now. I really do appreciate you all coming around, and yeah, no idea when I'll stream next, but hopefully I'll stream. We'll see. Good night.